am joined with International Master Kostya Kavutsky, and we are ready to go. And I think we're going to have several matches, at least that I'm interested in. We're going to have the famous Nabatone is playing, and he just started. We have who is Nate, and we have Ryobica Jet uh, also playing today, and Mitch Fabian's playing. So, going to be really great. Ryobica Jet is my student, and his actual name is Joel. We're gonna get the Battle of the London, the Battle of the London. We have it already. I love it, and the London very controversial, very controversial opening. Um, and
That's right.
we've spent a little bit of time on this against the King's Indian setup business, and I'm really interested to see what Mitch pulls out because one thing I've noticed with Mitch is he is prepped, very prepped, like really using Chessable like a maniac.
Right.
And I like this C5 move best, honestly. I think trying to play for E5 is a mistake. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Me and Joel have spent a little bit of time on the equal ending with C3, Queen B6, Queen B3, Bishop E6, and I'm hoping that's what he does. But he has watched a lot of weird YouTube videos on openings, so he often goes a little. He sometimes gets some crazy ideas.
Right.
I think Knight D2 is the maybe more ambitious thing, but honestly, I hope he does the end game because uh, I think we've talked about it a little bit, and it's really pretty equal, and I think he could do well with that.
Yeah, honestly, I've always found the camp scan game kind of unpleasant for black, so I don't think it's a great idea for black to even allow that. Like, I don't know what Mitch's next move here is going to be, but if it's something like b6 or knight bd7, he could have done either of these moves on the previous move and then played c5 now, and yeah, just avoiding the end game altogether.
Now that's interesting to me. So he did play b6.
Hmm.
When you say the Komsky ending, which
Yeah.
position you're talking about? What I didn't know it
Oh,
was called the
oh,
Komsky ending.
I'm sorry. I meant this end game with like d takes c5,
Oh,
dc,
okay, yeah.
and queen takes d8.
Oh,
I just feel like I've seen him go for it so many times that it's like his position.
that's really interesting. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad. I like having names like that. Uh, and this B6, fine, totally fine. So you think he should have done that first if he was going to play B6?
Yeah, I think it's slightly more flexible for sure. Start with b6, then c5. Now DC is never a possibility, and yeah, I think it just makes life easier for black.
Hmm.
Um, Now Mitch might be playing a setup that I recommended. This is what I've played, and I've shown in like some videos. Just knight d7, a6, and then playing mainly to control the e4 square with like knight e4 at certain moments.
Hmm.
So yeah, I find the line quite solid for black. It's solid for white too.
One thing that me and Joel have looked at a little bit in he's had a couple games like this, is I think I've taught him to be patient, and it is like, especially at this level, it's really powerful if you can be patient. So, for example, knight d2, knight d7, and then we talked about the great move, just bishop h2.
Hmm.
And it looks like white's not being ambitious, but it's pretty cool just to get the bishop out of dodge. And then your next move is probably a4, but you're really just saying that you're a touch better, but also that it's difficult for black to know what to do, right? Totally equal position, but really a one that it's yeah that I think is interesting for both sides. Now,
Yeah, we'll
Joel,
we'll see how comfortable Mitch feels because like yeah, he clearly knows the moves in the setup, but it's about like finding a solid plan from move 10 to 20. A lot easier said than done, I think, in these cases.
Yeah, Mitch got rolled with. He did some extra prep that seemed totally reasonable against Sam, aka Bubba Tuff, and man, like Mitch is going for it with the openings. We saw that with Vishnu as well, and then his problem is like right out of the openings finding, um, plans and stuff.
Hmm.
So right, we're getting that now. So let's see.
And hey, everyone in the Twitch chat, uh, good to see you guys. Looks like, oh yeah, we already got some decent viewers so far. It's been a very busy week. Um, so it's good to see y'all. I can't believe it was a week ago that we were talking about that like Hikaru fine goal drama with David,
That's right.
and now we're here. Things happen so quickly.
How many views has your video gotten?
It I think it had 25,000.
Dang, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it beat my previous best video, which was sitting at like 22,000 from
Uh
like 5 months
huh.
ago. So just absolutely destroyed that.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
just shows that like yeah, all the new views for chess are good. They're trickling down. I'm pretty sure it's because my video is now like if you YouTube chess drama, my video's like up there in the
Uh
top
huh.
five.
That's pretty good. Yeah. We should tell people Kostya is also doing this amazing thing where he is involved in a FIDE trainers seminar, and he might leave. I assume will leave a little early tonight to go take a test. They're going to send him a test, and
Yeah, I was thinking about doing it on stream, but yeah, that would be. I'll have to go in about 2 hours.
can you give us a little hint of what it's like? Like what kind of questions and yeah, what is it about? What do you need to be? What kind of person do you need to be a FIDE trainer?
No, honestly, I have no idea. It's hard to predict. So far the seminar has it's mainly been taught by Melik
Mm-hmm.
Kachin. He's taught like most of the classes. There was one lecture taught by Kaidana, one by Donaldson, and one this morning by Agard. That was really cool. I was happy to attend it. Although I had to leave early so I could go teach for the Charlotte Chess Club. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been a really busy day. So the sessions have been, I mean, pretty random to be honest. I don't think they're teaching some kind of specific curriculum, but rather getting a topic and just like showing some interesting games, discussing some stuff. A lot of the sessions have had like maybe I don't know half an hour or so of Q&A, which I think is totally fine because the trainers have like real questions, and that's kind of like I think the best part of working with these guys is just asking them about like real problems. Um, so the test, I feel like it. Okay, it's supposed to be a double blind test. So I've been assigned an alias, so they won't know that my answers are mine. And I also don't know who the examiner is, and the examiner doesn't know who any of the participants are. I'm guessing they're going to ask some kind of like open-ended questions, like you have a student who wants to learn the Evans Gambit, but you think he's a positional player. Like, what should you do? I don't know,
Uh-huh.
or maybe some kind of like dramas. Like the parents are putting a lot of pressure on the kid to work on their openings, but you think they should do end games. Like how do you handle? I don't know. That would be my guess. I doubt they're going to ask us about like concrete chess knowledge,
Uh,
just because it would seem weirdly out of place. I don't know.
well, like what kind of stuff are they teaching when you guys do the sessions?
Um, it's it's kind of like their philosophy on stuff. Like with Kaidanov, he basically discussed solitaire chess,
Uh-huh.
and then we guessed some moves, and he talked about the various benefits of doing solitaire chess in a group environment and how you can get a feel for all the students and give them feedback on their moves, and then kind of inspire them a bit because they're guessing the moves of like strong players. Poor Melik has had to teach for like 10 hours, I think, this weekend or something. But, so he's just been kind of giving us everything he thinks about everything, like what kind of openings people should play, how to teach calculation. It's basically a seminar on like how to teach and how to raise young talents. Um, so, but yeah, to me, a lot of that stuff is kind of subjective, So
Right.
I'm not sure what the exam is going to be like. I have a feeling it's just going to be like if you like an essay type answer, and if you give competent questions, you pass. Hopefully.
Right. Okay. That's and now I want to ask more about this because there's a variety of reasons I'm interested in it. But Sorab asked a question that is very important for us. We had that great vote chess thing. How come we haven't done it again?
I don't know. We were gonna do it. We agreed to do a rubber match, and then someone dropped in communication. It was probably me. It's usually I just kind of forget to respond, but I will do it. You know what? We'll reach out to Chesspatzer UK. I really want to do a sub battle with them. I just want our viewers to play against their viewers and see what's what. I think that's the thing that should happen. We can do vote chess again too.
Yeah, we need to do some vote chess. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. Now let me ask you some basic questions because there's some Scotch stuff that I think you're more familiar with than I am. And if I go
Uh,
back to like this
could be.
four, so we got Bishop C5. I've seen that thing before. Bishop B3. I've seen that thing before. Now Bishop B6. I thought Queen F6 was the move there.
Wait, are you looking at the game with a Connor Raider?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Bishop b6. I think it's a move.
Um. Okay, and then Knight F5. That doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, I remember Eugene Perlstein talking about this a little bit. From what I remember, Bishop b6 is a move. Knight f5, white can get a small edge, but nothing special.
Uh huh.
And that's the extent of what I know.
So when you say Eugene talked about it, like on his website, or what kind of thing are we talking about?
I feel like well, we traveled to the Reykjavik Open a couple of
Mm.
years ago, and we did these postmortem videos. And I think he had a game where he played Bishop b6, and his opponent may or may not have played Knight f5. They might have played some other move. I feel like they played Knight f5, but yeah, I'm not totally sure.
All right. Okay, good. Let's check in on the famous game here. Knight D2, like I said. Oh, I called it. Look at that. Bishop H2, my friend. Bishop H2. All right, Kosti. So this is an interesting strategical moment for Black. What do you do? And you
We're
said
back to Mitch's game.
right.
After a4, I would play a6.
Well, first of all, it's Black's move. This is important. White just played Bishop H2.
Oh, Bishop h2. Wait, feel like I don't have the live position. That's weird. I'm still on
Oh, oh,
a4.
oh. What do you mean? You've got A4 on the board?
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
Wait, maybe you're looking at your
Maybe sometime.
analysis.
Maybe I gotta figure it out. Yeah. Um, so you're right. No, he did not play Bishop H2. That was my own analysis. Right. Is there a way, by the way, for me to I see. I gotta do. Never mind. I figured it out.
Yeah, yeah, reset button.
So A4 is similar to Bishop H2. I kind of wanted him to play Bishop H2 just because it would have thrown the ball into Black's court. But still, right? What's Black has several moves he can do here. I'm gonna guess you want him to play A6.
Yeah, definitely meeting a4 with a6 is a big part of this line.
Yeah.
Um, hey, Paspon, good to see you. And then after white plays, let's say bishop h2 next, this is where black plays that funny move rook a7.
Oh my God.
So if Mitch is spending this much time on a6, I have a feeling he's not going to know rook a7.
That's amazing. And your intention is truly the big Queen A8 of the world.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I
I've had it a
like it.
few times. I think it's pretty solid.
Now, one thing I like about that is not only does it look cool on A8, but the let's call natural development of the queen would go to C7, but then it's always hunted by the bishop on H2, right?
Yeah.
So
And
that makes
basically, the idea of like rook a7, queen a8, I mean, it looks weird. But eventually, black plays for b5, like maybe even with bishop c6, rook b8, b5. And then once that happens, the rook is either useful on the a file or it can slide over to b7 in some cases.
Now, if I a6 was played, yeah. Okay, really fun stuff. Now, by the way, do you is this it for today, or do we have other games going on too? If you and maybe in the chat could help us too if we have
I
other people.
saw a couple other games from the ladder channel. If you click into there, you'll be able to find them, or I can send you them.
Yeah, send me a link if, or yeah, anybody can send me a link with the other games because I think right, I think we're gonna have some other ones going on. Um,
All right, here's one, two.
cool. All right.
The second game doesn't really open up for me. I'm not sure what that's about.
Now these people, Navatone, Connor Raider, Drew Tuck, and Quasi, they're in your group.
I think few of them are in the. I think Quasi's in the Grasshopper group, Nabatone in the Squire group. The
Uh-huh.
other two, they might be in one of the recruit groups. Now we
Mm.
have these like two student coaches, Quirked and Game Per Frame, and they've been training their groups for a little while now.
Well, Drew.
Actually, exciting thing about that, we're going to be setting up some team matches between them pretty soon.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
Some inter dojo rivalry.
Drew Tuck is playing some high level stuff here. I think he knows what he's doing too, because seven castles against the with the Evans here is very dangerous. Oh man, look at this guy. He's coming at him. Queen b3. Oh, this I wouldn't want to be black here. No way. This is this is already a little difficult.
Yeah, Evan's gambit is super tough. Queen b3. Oh man.
I had a malaise in my life where I tried to play e4, and of course I wanted to play the Evans. And oh, Bishop e6 is played. It that I'm just gonna guess that loses instantly to Bishop takes e6, like instantly, right? You take it, and then Queen takes knight e7, knight e5, and yeah,
Yeah.
we're not even down material. We're threatening mate on
Yeah.
f7.
That's just busted. No, Black needed to spend more time somewhere here. I mean, is Queen d7 playable or is it just lost no matter what?
I mean, it looks really ugly. It looks very, very ugly. But Bishop
Yeah.
e6 isn't it? That
No, this is
isn't it.
just some like Morphy Hampton game or something like.
Yeah. This. Oh, this is really. Yeah. This is inspirational chess. I think the guy. I feel like he really knew it too. Because seven castles, I remember that from my preparation, and Bishop a3 followed by e5. Perfect.
hmm
Really well done. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, Evans is one of those openings as Black. Like, if you don't really know it, you can really, really get killed. Um, but people can play like more solid lines, right? I remember you and David talking about Bishop b6, just kind of killing all the fun.
Right. Yeah. Bishop b6. But maybe white is a little bit better there. I also had a problem with opening that board, so I don't know what it was. Because you sent me a link and then it didn't open, right? For
Hmm.
for you either.
Actually, I think someone must have posted the same game twice. So I think we only
Right, right,
have
right.
4 games.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty great.
But I'm seeing I got 3 games though. I've got
Oh, three. I have two. Mitch, Vishnu,
Mitch
Connor
and Vishnu.
Raider.
Okay, hold on. Let me see Vishnu here. Is Vishnu playing?
Yeah, he's got a game. I can send that to you as well.
Yeah, send me. Oh yeah, I need to see Vishnu's game.
Yeah, Ariel, we're doing some live commentary over games played by students of the dojo. One of the perks is you get us discussing your play, your inner psyche.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's hard to play online, and like, I mean, we're not being super strict with these guys, but so they can be like tweeting, looking at their phone while they're playing. But if you're playing like a serious game and you're not allowed to look at anything but the board, it's tough.
Let's go through this Vishnu game here. So d4, e6, c4, f5, knight c3. Now, by the way, this is the Bubba Tuff move order, where he
Hmm.
goes d4, e6, and then he can play French, or he'll play a Dutch in this position. And now, Bubba Tuff like to do um, Stonewall, but here we're getting a different setup with Bishop b4, which is a little bit. I'm gonna call that new to me. I don't really know anything. I have no clue about this position. It feels like it should be better for white. Uh, Vishnu tanked on queen c2, and black played b6. This will be, yeah. I feel like white is gonna need to do something like f3. He just played e3.
Hmm.
So if we imagine e3, bishop b7, I'm assuming f3. You don't have to do it, but no. With there, if you play f3, there's maybe knight h5 to worry about and stuff.
Yeah, my understanding is that this is kind of like a souped up Nimzo. I mean, black got f5, which is often kind of an achievement. Um,
Well,
so I don't think white has a really good. If there is an advantage for white, it's not intuitive to me.
right. So I think what we should say is there are a variety of ways that kind of sort of could have transposed to this, where black plays, imagine no f5 and just the knight on f6, and then black plays knight e4 and f5 at some point,
Hmm.
right? And so the question with the comparison of that position to this one is the bishop on f4 misplaced? Let me just explain what I'm talking about here. So knight f6, and there's a variety of ways this could go down, but imagine b6, bishop d3, bishop b7. Let's just say knight f3. You could do other things. Knight e4. Now, honestly, I think the best move here is castling, but I just wanted to show this. Imagine queen c2 and f5. And this is a known position where we can get something similar to the game, but the drama here is, like I said, I'm not sure the bishop here wants to be on f4, because he can be subject to getting rolled over there with g5, and it seems advantageous that black doesn't have to commit to knight e4. He can commit on
Hmm.
his own sweet time.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. So yeah, that seemed like this is going well. Unless I'm missing something, this is going well for black.
I
What do you
mean,
think?
yeah, it's not like black is like better, but I think black gets a very comfortable game and doesn't have like the typical problems to solve when you don't have like much space and you have to get some counterplay. I think to me, it just seems like black's position is going to be really, really healthy. Which is why I would suggest for white not to develop the knight to c3 so early against this move order. I'm not sure what line Vishnu wanted to play against the Dutch, but if it's anything with g3, I think he should just play g3 bishop g2. and then just delay the knight until black kind of decides what they're doing with their king side.
Well, I was about to say that he needed a plan, and he's at least got one here. He's playing knight e2, and I assume that means
Sure.
he wants to play. He wants to go bishop hunting with a3.
Hmm.
Like almost every time White plays against the Nims, though, he's going to be down in development. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well,
right,
it's principled. It's very principled. So I think if neither opponent is in any kind of particular like opening territory where they really know what they're doing, you should follow some kind of consistent plan. And we've seen this before. It might not work out due to like some knight h5 stuff, but that's up to black to kind of find and make it work.
right. I think the default for black would be something like castles a3, take the thing, and then just play d6 and knight d7.
Yeah.
And you can make pretty reasonable claims that the bishop on f4 is misplaced. Just like all around misplaced, because it has to deal with the e5s eventually.
Yeah, as far as flamingos go, this seems pretty playable.
That's a pretty good flamingo. This is the flamingo accelerated, my friends. That's right. Yeah,
Funny.
that's right. If you
Oh,
guys,
hey, I saw
yeah,
some questions in the chat. Um, so yeah, for this stream, we'll just be doing the live commentary. Um, but if you guys want to submit games for game analysis, Jesse does this monthly chess.com show. We might also do some more game analysis streams in the future. Let's see here.
and vintage. I just want to respond. You're totally right that bishop b7 is a move, and I took on c3 just to make black's life easy. And this would be a more complicated decision with bishop e7, where the bishop will be not only bad but in everybody's way on e7. But the claim is obvious, and that's that the knight on e2 is also bad and in everybody's way. You know, so both of those are, I think, interesting plans. One reason I took is I feel pretty good that in this position that black has nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
That's just why I did it this way. But right, we could do other things. You could definitely play bishop e7. All right. Thank you for the sub. Let's check in. I don't know if this is the game of the day, but I'm following it the most. Bishop g3 instead of bishop h2.
Ooh, that's subtle.
I honestly think that we had talked about something similar in one of our lessons, Ed. So you definitely wanted to move the bishop, but now if knight e4 comes, you do not have the option of just letting it sit, which is fine. I think we will take it anyway. And of course, the dream is to claim that someday you might want king h2. And here's where Kostya's rook a7 move would come into play.
Yeah, I would just play rook a7 here. Queen a8.
And I really feel like it might seem dull, but actually it's like both sides, let's say rook a7. That's a big commitment, and black needs to, feel comfortable about that move. And then white will have a problem of finding a plan as well, and the natural ones are going to be things like aiming for either b4 or knight c4. And that could be done with a variety of move orders, I feel.
Oh, rook a7.
So he did your video. So
Yeah,
was
Mitch is a
this
true fan.
was this on the Hello Kostya YouTube site that you did this one, rook a7?
Yeah, I mean, I never did a video specifically on the London, but I've covered a few of my personal games, and yeah, at least one of them featured this position with the bishop on h2. And so it's definitely something I've mentioned before. But he spent 8 minutes on it, so maybe it's something he half remembered. I don't know. It's not a very Mitch move to make on his own.
Well, right, and like we're saying, like if he doesn't put the queen somewhere cool on c7, it will feel funny. Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
feel funny on rook a7. Um, One thing I think is interesting, so let me just say, Joel is an older dude like myself who is trying to improve and trying to break 2000. And I feel like there's several people in this group who are over 2000 strength. I would put Mitch among them. Mitch, I don't know, maybe is even close to master. Definitely with openings, the guy is 2400. Um, and so it's been really cool to see like these struggles go down. If Joel wins this game, he'll finish the tournament at -1, which I think is definitely an achievement
Wow,
for
he's
him.
finishing the tournament.
Yeah,
That's
this the
incredible.
tournament. Well, there's a lot of people finishing the tournament. It's almost over.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, it's great to. I mean, I feel like all these guys are getting something out of it because they're just like everyone's studying their special lines, and yeah, they're going up against each other. They're all going to be seeing these openings again and again, and yeah, now they just get these like serious games. Hopefully, they pick up one or two good lessons from each game.
hmm Yeah, and the
That's
cool
awesome.
the cool thing we've talked about too before is people are playing opponents that are much closer in rating than they would normally get in your traditional U.S. Open tournament,
Yeah.
right? Like they are playing, yeah, people very close. Whereas in an open, you're playing some Patzer, then you're playing a GM, and then you go back to playing a Patzer like that. Dor says, time to start new tournament. Yeah, we need to start a new tournament. And first of all, I should announce, most people know this, there's the ladder. We've got the ladder going on that people can watch, can be a part of. And I think we're going to start a new tournament with a round robin. I think it's cool, anyways, and I'm hoping that we can do something like the people with the plus scores in each of those advanced round robins could play their own tournament, and then maybe the minus scores get to play their
Hmm.
tournament, something like that.
Yeah. Survivors round robin.
Survivors round robin, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any news on that score, Kosti, about
Wait, sorry, on which one?
on what's going to come next
Um,
in terms of the
yeah,
tournaments?
yeah. I mean, we will definitely probably just start another tournament as soon as this one is over or wraps up. So I'm sure most of these guys will want to keep playing. Um, let's see. Yeah. So in addition to the ladder, I basically just want to do more like team events, like the Vote Chess or sub battles. Um, the groups definitely might be changing in terms of how they're run pretty soon. I feel like we have to kind of rework things
Hmm
just to give people like, well, honestly, more of a team aspect where they're like showing up to a regular training and actually having some kind of scrimmages to look forward to, some sparring matches.
hmm
So yeah, I just want to get more people playing for the most part. Also, we should start thinking about doing some real training because like open tournaments are coming back. Vegas has been scheduled for September,
Oh, interesting. Uh huh. I
and
didn't know that.
today I was just working with Grandmaster Shabalov for the Charlotte camp, and he was saying that there are some round robins that are in talks for like July. I mean, in person round robin tournaments.
Cool. Yeah, I want to
So
go. That sounds great.
OTV chess is coming back. Yeah, we don't have that much time to like get better.
Dor, we're definitely going to do Squire promotion. Don't we haven't forgotten about the Squires. Um, when you say Vegas, like what are you talking about like a old
Oh,
fashioned open
the
tournament?
National Open. Yeah.
Holy moly! Now that surprises me, like that they would try that just because there's so much viral contact in like a room with 300 people.
Hmm.
Uh,
I mean, they must be really confident. I mean, they saw how everything got canceled, so yeah,
right,
maybe
right.
they know something about Vegas's restrictions. Um, but I was interested in playing it before. It hasn't always been a 9 round tournament, but I think it will be.
Uh huh.
And yeah,
Yeah,
Vegas has always been a close norm opportunity for me.
right. Okay, let me get your take on this. I felt that A5 was wrong in Vishnu's game against Counter Sparks. And we know why he did it. He was afraid of white expanding with A3 B4. But A3 B4 is not that big of a deal, whereas the tempo loss with A5 I think is a big deal. Plus you're giving away some squares, namely
Hmm.
B5 when you play A5. But I don't know, you might feel differently about it, or Kostya.
I'm not sure about this one. It's definitely a thematic move, especially when you combine it with like knight a6. But as we were talking, there doesn't seem to be a good reason not to just play d6, knight b d7. And with knight d7, move a5, yeah, it just doesn't seem necessary. Because white's just not threatening b4. Then black will play a5 and attack all the squares. So
Right, I'm not playing B4 anytime soon.
yeah, at the very least, it's kind of inflexible. It's not really a move that is going to be necessary in every position. Even like castles, I think would be more helpful.
And the move, the move I think that Vishnu should think about here is after bishop e7 to go for it with d5.
Mm.
That is the traditional bust the Queen's Indian setup move. Now, it's easy for me to do it from this vantage point because I'm not sacking my own pieces, but it looks to me it would be very dangerous to take that thing. Um, if you took both of these moves, knight d4, knight g3, looks scary. Let's try knight g3 for example, g6, and maybe just castle. There might be other. I'm sure there's other ways of doing this too, but yeah, this looks terrifying.
Yeah. I think black can basically never take on d5. D5 is a really ambitious move, especially with the knight ready to come to d4. My instinct as black would be just to immediately play knight a6, knight c5.
All right, let's try it. So knight a6,
Yeah, and then queen will go
castles.
to c8 as soon as rook d1 or something.
You can play knight c5 here too.
Oh, if you want a castle, yeah,
I'm on a castle, yeah. You could do queen c8 or knight c5.
yeah, I would do queen c8 just to be thematic.
Well, and the nice thing about this is, uh, to me, the thematic is by all means uh, getting this d5 break to put the bishop on b7 on lockdown. And then also, it's cool that previously our knight didn't know what was going on, and now it can dream of some kind of square like knight d4. And so maybe knight d4, knight, and I feel good about this position even though I'm not entirely sure what I'd do next. Yeah, maybe I can play knight b5, knight cb5.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like it's and you know it's funny. I Whenever someone makes what I think is a mistake, then I start getting ambitious, like I'm doing here. And the mistake I think Black made was playing a5 and on move seven.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely the ambitious try. So it's worth checking, good or bad. I think it's kind of like yeah, it's always the move in the position d5.
Right.
We got f3 on the board, which is logical again, consistent with White's previous moves. Um,
With f3, there's a couple things I was worried about. I don't know, worried is too strong of a word, but no, I was thinking that maybe black just plays knight h5
Yeah, yeah,
because it's not just to steal the bishop, but of course f3 is aimed at dominating my f6 knight. I really, especially now, I need to trade a minor. So it makes sense to me to play knight h5 and just trade some stuff off, and that looks fine to me for black. Yeah. Whereas d5, that looked pretty good. d5 looked pretty strong.
it looked fun at the very least.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
my
let's
man
see.
is tanking. Joel is tanking after rook a7. His
Okay.
main problem in these tournaments has been going too slow, and Mitch's has
Mm.
been going too fast. So Mitch, I'm not worried about Mitch's time at all. Mitch, of course, had the famous ending with Vishnu where he played way too fast. Um,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, this is gonna be. It's hard for White, and my my first gut reaction is just to play b4. Yeah, just play b4 and queen b3. That's my sense of it. So
Yeah, B4 is definitely a move for sure.
yeah,
I'm trying to think how black
I'll
would
put that on the
react.
board. Well, right, it it just puts the question to this rook on a7 if it really is totally happy there. And part of the point of playing bishop g3 or bishop h2 is so that knight d5 doesn't smack me.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe black just goes CB4 there, CB4, and queen A8.
All right, let's try it out. Here, here, queen a8. Now, I don't exactly know how you're getting your rook out, so let's just play queen b3.
Well, bishop D5.
Okay. And maybe just put the rook on c7 now.
Mm-hmm.
Did I have something better than queen b3? I don't know. I guess of course I can play rook c1, but then on rook c8 I still need to do something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's also possible for black not to take on B4. To be honest, I'm
Sure,
not sure
right?
if this was necessary either. Um,
Let's see what he did.
yeah, 'cause
He
a lot of
played.
times the idea for black is just to hold it on C5.
Now, my boy played it conservative with queen b3.
Queen B3 is definitely thematic. Queen A8.
Okay, the thing I don't understand after queen a8 though is what's on my next move
You mean for black?
for white.
Oh, for white. Next move is usually knight C4, rook FD1.
But aren't I at least a little bit worried about bishop d5? It just doesn't look good. And then I might regret my bishop being on g3 because then there's knight e4 at some point. Oh
Yeah, yeah, that's
man.
right.
Now I
Hmm.
did look at one game with him long ago, and I have a feeling this is what's motivating him. It's probably not a good thing. Now, one of the things about about Joel and other London players is they like the idea of the opening, but at heart they are bloodthirsty maniacs. So they aren't really able to just mellow it out. And we looked at a game. We're gonna see if he does this. He really did tank for 13 minutes on Queen B3. Uh, we looked at a game once long ago, a similar position where White played Bishop C4, and it looks a little bit wrong, but we're we're just making we're making life a little bit unpleasant for Black. Black has a variety of moves, but he can't play E6 and he can't move the rook on F8. So the let's call it the normal looking move would be to do Bishop D5.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's his intention with Queen B3. We'll see if I'm right. He was so we there was a position. It was very tactical, and we looked at it was especially it was after Black had played knight e4, so there was like tricks of knight g5 in the air, and I think that's where his subconscious went on seeing this position, which
Yeah.
it's still going to be equalish. I think I don't think he's broken any rules. In fact, I would say both players have played a pretty good game so far.
So far, it's yeah very balanced. I think it has to be equal. Uh, Rapid final coming up. Do you have you been following at all the Lindora's
A,
Abbey?
a little bit, and I have to admit, I was like sad. I was sad when Magnus lost. I don't know why. I was sad. I was like, "What? Naka, man, come on." Um. Anyways, I'm not too big of a fan of this already. And most people out there know that I'm not too big of a fan of the quick stuff. I watched a couple games, and a lot of it was very deep opening theory. Uh, And so yeah, it was like, oh my god, such depth. Kind of
Yeah, these players are really just taking it very seriously. Dubov for sure.
right, yeah.
Um, would be good to see Dubov win.
It would shake
Um,
things up. So when tell
yeah,
me about does it start tomorrow or something? The final,
I have no idea. Someone just mentioned it in the chat.
right?
So yeah, I assume it's tomorrow, probably early in the day. And yeah, I mean, there of course has been this like whole drama with Naka's fans and Chess 24. It's basically like Bobby Fischer against the Russians, where Naka is Fischer and Chess 24 and Ben Feingold are the Russians,
Uh-huh.
and Naka's fans are, I guess, Fischer's inner circle.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that Naka. When I say Naka has inspired such loyalty with the fans. It's really pretty impressive. Um, let's take a look at this Nabatone game. I'm going to need your help figuring this out because I'm not sure I get it. So if we go back, let's go back a couple moves here.
Yeah, it looks like we ended up getting something that looks pretty classical.
Now my first question is, Black just played Bishop D7. Couldn't he have played, or rather, wouldn't Knight G4 have been annoying? Maybe not. I don't
G4. You know, one thing I've noticed is that a lot of players are just so casual about giving up the dark squared bishop. You would think by this point people would have learned, but so many games I just see like knight G4, queen D2, takes, and then white just continues on as if like they didn't just lose the strategic battle.
Well, one thing I just realized is I made a mistake. Knight G4 is no bueno because you demand that he takes it, and then we blew it.
Oh, wait.
he lost the battle but won the war. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so that was a good
fair enough.
call from Nabatone just to calmly play Bishop D7. Now, do I understand why he did Bishop D7? I mean, it looks if you're gonna play Bishop D7, right? Then it's because you're thinking about maybe castling long, right? Which feels a little insane, right? To say the normalish move would just be to castle. If Knight G4 isn't working, to just then castle short.
Well, the one difference between this and like normal positions is that black has played G6, which basically never happens. Usually the
Uh-huh.
queen has this square, the knights have this square. And I feel like this move is actually hurting black. Because now it feels like black always has to be worried about four ideas.
Well, and also Queen D2, Bishop G5 at some point is a little bit more hard to meet.
Yeah.
and I'm
Oh,
assuming.
Dortom is redeeming some rewards. All right, I gotta drink some water.
All right. I didn't know about the posture check and the hydrate.
Yeah, I just added those because okay, so Twitch has this thing where they give channel points for
Uh huh.
watching the stream and participating, and yeah, it's up to the streams to set up different rewards. Posture check is funny because it's like good for the streamer and yes, I guess the viewer as well. I like hydrate too.
Yeah. Um, cool. No, that's great. Then we had a question that I think you could definitely answer better than me, which is what is exactly going on with Chess 24 and Naka?
Oh, sure, yeah. So this happened actually even before the fine gold thing. Um, Basically, Naka's playing this event on Chess 24. He asked them if he could also stream while he's playing. They said yes. It's not clear exactly what conditions they agreed on because they thought that he's just going to stream, talk about his moves, and whatever. They were totally fine with people watching it like that. But what Naka ended up doing is he invited on Robert Hess and Alexander Botez to do commentary on the games while he was playing so that he could just focus, which I think was a smart move. He can just focus on the games. And then his commentators do all the work of like talking to the fans. And then the issue they had was that Hess and Botez are, of course, like chess.com people. Naka's page is like has a bunch of chess.com banners. And apparently, like the Chess 24 logo was nowhere to be seen. So it looked like it was just like a chess.com stream.
Right.
And Naka has like 20,000 people watching him. Chess 24 only has 5,000.
Yeah.
And so they got a little upset. Um, so I guess it depends, like who's right, who's wrong. I don't think Naka really did anything wrong. I guess it depends on what they were expecting him to do in terms of the stream. I guess they weren't expecting him to um, invite like chess.com people. But the real problem is that the quality of Chess 24 stream is just not up to par. If the sound quality was better and the video quality was better, more people would be watching them because they have so much star power. But yeah, they just haven't been able to figure out Zoom in this period. They have commentators, but like they're glitchy. Their video isn't working right. The sound always sounds like it's coming from like a built-in mic. Um, they need to buy everyone a nice microphone and a nice webcam and a good internet connection, basically.
Now this is making me feel bad because I feel like I'm always glitchy. I'm always like I lose the stream a lot of the times, and I have audio problems. Yeah.
Mm, okay, but you're just one man. This is like a corporation. It's trying to compete with like chess.com.
Now I think
Um,
Bubba definitely makes a good point that right, Chess 24 was always using other stuff like for years. Like they would cover any event using some other events, games and yada yada, right? And so
yeah,
right,
I
yeah,
guess that's totally fair. I guess their argument would be that they're always posting like who's running the tournaments. They're not gonna like hide that. Not that I don't think Naka was necessarily hiding it. It's just that yeah, your competitor's name doesn't really come up a lot during the stream. So, but yeah, they've spent their whole time just doing commentary on other events. So it definitely feels like they can figure something out. Like I think the feud is really kind of silly.
but the feud is amazing for chess, and it's amazing for your YouTube channel because you've got 24,000, 25,000 views. That's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
that's
we
true. Well,
need.
I tried to give a balanced perspective, and that wasn't enough.
One of my favorite lines, actually my favorite line that you've ever done, is you introduced the video, and with a wry smile, you said that opportunistic YouTubers were using this to get attention for themselves, and I was like, right on, Ghost. Yeah, that was great, man.
Well, yeah, no, I am very proud of it because if I didn't say it, that would be the entire comment section. I think it's just so I had to realize I'm being hypocritical, but
Yeah.
I also felt like it was worth it. Vintage Watchpoint asks, "What I don't get is why Chess24 insists on Lawrence for commentary." I mean, there was a time when Lawrence was legitimately one of the best commentators in the world. He did the official coverage for the 2013 candidates that Magnus qualified from to get to the World Championship, and yeah, he did a lot of elite events at that time. He did a great job. I mean, he was definitely like a really good color commentator.
And now you feel what
And I
it's
mean,
off his
okay,
game
British
or
accent
yeah.
is awesome. Everyone likes a good British accent.
But what do you mean? You feel he's no longer up there? Yeah. What's the implication?
Well, yeah, now it's just like Super GM Peter Svidler, Super GM Alex Grischuk, Super GM Anish Giri, Super GM second Jan Gustafsson, and Lawrence Trent.
I
So
would
it's like,
say. I mean, Jan Gustafsson is not a super GM or anything.
well, for like okay, as far as like the opening knowledge goes.
Okay. Oh, we are getting interesting things here, Kostya. So I want to return to this, but we had in this game, Joel played Rook Fe1, which is definitely controversial, and now knight e4 happened. And I think this is fine for black. And the problem that um, yeah, my poor Joel is going to have a problem of dealing with not being able to move the knight on f3 because of the g2 square. So,
Mhm.
right, this is already, it's not bad, but it's a little, I guess oh, yeah, this is already just a little bit unpleasant. For example, if we take on e4, and this, by the way, the bishop's not on h2, it's on g3. So if we take on e4, if our bishop had been on c4, by the way, then we could play knight g5 and have a party. But now knight g5 is going nowhere because of this bishop g2 thing. Now, one crazy thought I just had, which is probably a bad thought, is could white actually? I doubt this very much. In fact, I resent. I don't resent it, but it's just a dumb idea. I don't think white should be doing this stuff. I just don't think he should be doing that. But I know he's thinking about it, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I do know that the guy's thinking about it. And
You know, as he should be. Yeah, I mean, I think because sometimes this stuff does work. Just that here, it's probably not after d5.
but and then d5 bishop e2,
Mhm.
bishop e4, right?
Yeah,
I'm
or
just,
like
I'm
maybe
just
h6.
maybe h6. I mean, black has to be better. Anyways, if you don't have something violent in this position, knight e4, bishop e4, then you're definitely in a squeeze, right? Because you don't have any way to resolve the knight on f3. Now, black isn't threatening anything much, but he can, yeah, things have gone bad. I think rook fe1 was the move that both looked wrong and was wrong. Like queen b3, I think was playable, but after queen a8, I think you needed to do something fancy, maybe like bishop c4. Yeah, because this, no, now black is a little bit better, right?
Yeah, I like black here. To honestly, I would play the exact same moves Mitch has played so far. So um, I think he's doing good things. But yeah, to be clear, I do like actually watching Lawrence. I feel like he does a good role. I think in the commentary of just like asking the questions that people want to know. Because he definitely brings the commentary down to a more stable level. Personally, I would prefer if it was all just super GMs like talking super fast. But yeah, that's not going to work for everyone.
Right. Yeah.
And same thing with Maurice. Like it's not the most instructive for me personally and for like high rated players, but I think it's not it's not crazy that St. Louis gets huge viewership numbers. I think their show is just really well produced.
Yeah. Um, Now, I'm gonna before you go. I know you have a little bit of time, but I need to ask you, what were your motivations for doing this FIDE trainers thing? Is it
Um, yeah.
is it a thing like where you because you can then because I don't understand this myself. Like, if I were to go ahead and like invest the time, I assume it costs something to do this. Is it then like I get to maybe coach the national like youth team or something like that, or how does it work?
So yeah, I think the FIDE trainer title comes with some benefits. As far as I understand, there are different titles. There's like a senior trainer and a regular trainer, and I think they might be upholding that with kind of like the new FIDE administration. The way I understand is that if you have some kind of official title, number one, I think you're not allowed to coach an Olympiad team without it. You're not allowed to be their head coach. Um, and then, yeah, I think it comes with some special benefits for the U.S. as well. So I've coached the U.S. World Youth Team without being a trainer, so that's fine. But I think if you wanted to be like a head of delegation or like a head coach, then that's something that would definitely be helpful. So it's definitely, to me, feels like more of a diplomatic, not diplomatic. What word am I thinking of? Um,
To me, because it feels
Bureaucratic title.
well, right? It feels like regulatory capture. It's what it feels like, right? Because then you're like making, yeah, it's like a it's like one of those things that a dentist does, and it doesn't cost. You don't need real special knowledge for a lot of the stuff that dentists do, but you need like um, the fancy piece of paper in order to practice the medicine or the
Yeah.
dentistry. So what
Um,
do you got to do? Is it just like one class and then you take a test, or how involved is it?
so it was a 3 day seminar. Today was the third day. Although yesterday, the past 2 days, it was like 6 hours of teaching, and today was only four. Um, and yeah, then there's some kind of exam. We also filled out a questionnaire. I don't know how much everything counts. Like I don't even know if I doubt I'm guaranteed the title. I think I have to like pass the exam, and they have to review the questionnaire where I talked about like some of my students and what I've been doing with teaching and like my
Mm,
experience. Um, but yeah, it's like pros and cons because on one hand, the good thing about this is that if you're trying to hire a chess trainer and like you don't really know much about chess, you do need this institution, I think, to tell you like, okay, this guy's legit, this guy made up his own title, and then that's how you kind of figure out like who's qualified to coach. But the problem, of course, is that it's all on FIDE, and so if you're a good coach and you just don't want to pay them like the 200 euros, you never get certified. It doesn't mean you're not a great coach. So this is like the struggle.
well, I'm glad you told me how much it was because I was a little bit shy about asking. I,
Oh,
was like, I felt it was like going to be some scam with a lot of money, and 200 euros, that's definitely a lot. You know, it
yeah, I mean, it did come with like 12 hours or something of actual seminar teaching.
right.
Um, that I think is certainly more useful because there's a lot of guys in the group that aren't like title players or like maybe 1800, 2000, 2200, and I'm sure they got a lot of the chess part from like listening to Melick and Kaidanov and John Donaldson talk
Right.
and stuff. Um, who is the best commentator in my opinion? I think Peter Lyko, hands down.
Huh.
Um,
Interesting.
I like Svidler. I like Svidler a lot. But I think as far as instructive value, Leiko will talk about like prep he did. He just like doesn't hold anything back. He'll talk about his experiences with all the players. I think he's also a little bit newer to commentating, so he kind of like wants to offer more. Whereas Fiddler, with all due respect, is definitely relaxed a bit now. Like he's been doing it with Jan for so long. Like he's not going to be able. Like not every show is just going to be full of like all of his knowledge. Whereas Leiko is relatively new. He doesn't do it that often, and
Hmm.
whenever he does it, I feel like uh, he just like dissects the position down to like every detail. He's always talking about what the players are probably feeling. He's very good at like guessing intentions and like reading body language. Um, Whenever he works with Jan Gustafsson and Jan tries to like waste time with some jokes, Leiko just like doesn't engage. He's just like, all right, let's get back to the position.
Uh-huh.
Whereas Fiddler, I feel like will be more, charitable and entertain. So if your goal is to learn from chess commentary, I think Leiko is the best.
Yeah, I feel like I don't. I'm usually a little disappointed, in the shows. I feel like it's mostly empty calories. The best commentator who's had the best runs, it's not always the case, but Yasser definitely has the best voice, hands down,
Yeah.
best stories. But a lot of those streams I can't watch because sometimes Jen's not even that into it, and then yeah, it's just sometimes it doesn't. And then the thing with Maurice too in the computer, I can't get into that as a viewer either.
Mhm.
Um, I've it like with Lako, it doesn't happen that often, but I love watching Kramnik talk about chess. I love watching Kasparov talk about chess, and it only comes in snippets, right? It doesn't happen. Usually, they're just like guests on a show. They're not
Right.
even being the like, main person or anything like that. And honestly, another great commentator is Carlson. Carlson's amazing, and he was doing the commentary for a lot of the candidates for Chess 24, and that was cool. We might even see
Yeah,
some of that again.
definitely listening to all the top guys is always just like fascinating. Grischuk, yeah, was really good. Gary.
Yeah, I like Yermo as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking of Yormo, I always think about this. I think he has like one of the greatest chess web series of all time. What every Russian schoolboy knows.
Uh huh. Yeah, yeah,
I remember watching that, and that stuff was just like classic. I mean, just like yeah, liquid elo
yeah.
in those
Liquid
videos.
Elo. Sure. Yeah, yeah. Speaking, it made me think of Yermo recently. I'm doing this really hard book, this Korshnoy's Practical Rook Endgames, and it is very deep. It really, like, it's making it. It makes my head spin. It is so hard that it makes my head spin. And I've done a lot of commentary with Yermo. And the thing about Yermo that's so funny is like he knows the a lot of the end game positions very well, and then he'll get on a high horse if somebody doesn't know it as well. Like if some GM doesn't know, he's gonna go after him. Like if they play some dumb positional move or they make some other mistake, he's not gonna care. But if they make like some end game understanding mistake, oh buddy, there's gonna be hell to pay. Hell to pay.
It's funny. And, I think a good commentator. Oh, I should also mention. I think pound for pound, the best commentator is Sergei Shipov, who
Uh
mainly
huh.
does his stuff in Russian. But
Right.
whenever I get a chance, I love watching him. I think he's the only commentator in the world who does as good a job alone as like two people can do together. Because I usually hate one person commentary. They always get bored. They always get tired. But he's just like full energy the whole time. He's full of knowledge. He's trained a lot of like the Russian superstars like Dubov and Nepo. So he has like huge insight into their game. Artemiev, Grischuk, all these guys. Um, and yeah, one thing that Chipov does, I think a lot of other good people do, is like he's not afraid of being the villain. Like he'll criticize a player if he feels it genuinely. I don't think he does it just for show. And I think Lawrence Trent will be that guy as well. Maurice will be that guy. So people resent Maurice because he's like, yeah, he's criticizing super GMs,
Uh huh.
but someone has to say it. Like when these guys blunder, someone has to be like, man, I can't believe they just blundered that. And so fans will hate him for it, but they bring action to the commentary. And I think that's important. I think you watch longer if it's exciting.
Cool. Yeah. No,
Yeah, true. Leiko never gets bored or tired. He will analyze the driest opposite color bishop endgame, just looking for chances, and he'll find them.
Actually, I felt that's funny. One thing about Leiko in commentary is I felt he validated my chess sense when he did boring positions, because I feel like with a lot of the commentary I get very upset with. In fact, one of the reasons I don't have when we talk about favorite commentators, I get angry at them is they're like Hess and Maurice and sometimes Yasser will always just be moaning and moaning if someone plays solidly or if a draw happens. And I feel like it just ruins everything because it's definitely part of the game to have a solid position and there's nothing wrong with a draw. And so when they're moaning, it's I feel like yeah, it's like they're not understanding the game when they're moaning like the way they're moaning.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like relax, guys. It's like endgames can be interesting too. The engine use, sure. I mean, yeah, it really has to be. Sometimes it's egregious. It's like
Yeah.
he's analyzing some position, and then he sees that the next move is insane, and you have to watch him do gymnastics to like justify the move with logic. And, okay, that part is obviously like funny, but um, it, I don't know. I think fans want to know the score. So I think the main thing to understand about St. Louis is that they're really making their product for a much lower average rating, which I think is they're right. They're trying to like broadcast the game of chess and popularize it. So hardcore chess players will watch them and be like, "This is not as instructive as it could be." It's like, yeah, it's like you basically want almost like a private lesson with these GMs where you're just talking about the position. That's not what everyone is gonna like stay for.
Right.
So
And
I think
BRB
it's
Yasser
understandable.
definitely moans about the draws. Oh my god, moaning and moaning and moaning. And he was one of the most boring players of all time. Of all time, he was the most boring of all of them. Yeah.
Funny.
Um. So we. Oh, you know what? I need to refresh my business. Let's do this. Let's check in on some of these games. Vishnu played f3, castles, castles. So we did get the long castles. d6, and one reason I wanted to play d5 earlier is I wanted to just avoid the fact that if I play d5 now, black has e5, and that highlights a lot of the problems with the bishop on f4.
Right.
However, it is true that by playing this way, black, by not playing knight h5, one idea that white can at least dream about here is to maybe play like h3 and aim for g4. It's not going to be super easy because f3 is hanging, but I think that's the break that he can dream about. And after h3, we're just our bishop can park it on h2. And in fact, just the simple h3 bishop h2 might be a good start anyway. Kind of like with Joel's game, just get the bishop out of the way. And then we
Yeah,
might,
I
yeah.
would really love to play h4 to be honest, but knight h5 is very annoying in response.
Um,
Um,
Wait, you're saying h4 knight h5?
yeah,
You can have the pawn at h4 if you want
yeah.
to.
Actually, I'm now reconsidering. Maybe I don't want to take the pawn. Maybe h4 then. I would think as white. Yeah, definitely we want to give a square to this bishop, and I don't know. I'm thinking like h4, h5, and then just using that later on. Some kind of some kind of lever we can pull later.
Right. And I'm going to guess, though, that Vishnu is like tanking and there's variations spinning 1,000 moves a second, and he's thinking about e4, which I think is. Well, I'm just going to say e4 doesn't feel right to me. Mostly because white isn't developed and you are developing the rook on f8 for black when you play e4. But I know
Yeah.
he's thinking about it. I know he's thinking about that. Don't do it, Vishnu. Don't do it, buddy. Just play h3 or h4, park the bishop, and then go from there.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Also, like, yeah, fe knight g4,
Yeah,
knight g4 annoying.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of problems. Don't do it. Your pawn on f3 is there to dominate the knight on f6, and I do think I think h3 or h4 is a little bit of a stylistic question. You know,
Hmm.
I think both of those could work out.
I definitely like king b1. Looking at black's position, it's actually not that obvious what black's like plan is. Like, there's not going to be a b5 break. Um, I mean, if black wanted to play d5, he could have done so already, but strategically, I don't think this would be right. So black is going like knight d7 next move, maybe king h8, but then I'm having a hard time figuring out what black is going to do from there.
Well, remember, well, okay, and one of the questions about whether you play king b1 is, do we think that knight h5 is a threat? To me, it feels like I want to be at least thinking about knight h5 for sure. That's why I would wanted h3 or h4.
Yeah, yeah, h3 makes sense from that point of view. If we go back one move, and black had played knight h5. I personally, I wouldn't have been too uncomfortable with bishop g3 there, and then knight f4 um, as a follow up.
So, like, take with the h pawn.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally reasonable. And the narrative here for black is just that the dark square bishop is going to prove himself. That's the only dream that you have here in this position,
right.
right? Um,
Whereas
and
with white, we would try to play on the light squares, knight f4, bishop d3, g4.
right. Um, and a5. Let's say this: a5 earlier. There's a thousand reasons I didn't like it, but one of them is, even though it looks aggressive, it's actually making the counterplay on the queen side more difficult. Because if it were back on a7, it would be easy to contemplate something like a7, a6, maybe after c5, for example. And now
Hmm.
c5 is just always a bummer because of the b5 square.
Right.
Oh man, it's that this game's gonna Vishnu, man. Oh.
This game's gonna blow up. Yeah.
One thing I have, one thing that's interesting about Vishnu is, Vishnu, like Mitch, is spending an inordinate amount of time on openings. He'll contradict me when I say that, but I mean, he's spending a lot of time, and he's spending it on these ambitious openings. Right now, he really is an aggressive player, but with his d4 repertoire, he's often playing for space, and that's hard to play for space. And then you're going to make some tricky decisions are going to come up later, like this one. And he just played knight g3, which is maybe playable. I thought about this, but it just made me so nervous about the bishop on f4, and I wasn't certain what was next. Very simple
Right. Now
question.
white has always to be careful that knight d7, queen e8, e5 isn't just gonna cause some real trouble.
So let's ask the obvious. Like, after knight d7, what is Vishnu's intention? I'm not sure. I know he's thinking about e4, but he shouldn't. He shouldn't want to do
Yeah.
it.
Well,
Don't do it.
let's just try bishop d3.
Okay. And the what's the intention? Maybe to
Um,
play e4 or something.
Eventually e4. Yeah, it has to be, or even d5 might be possible at some point.
Okay. At the very least, it'll put black in a situation where the guy is going to have to make a move. And let's say a natural move would be like c5, but there's more than one move. And now in these positions, let me just say the obvious. White would like to play d5, but when he does so, he's sacrificing the bishop on f4. But maybe it's not that big of a deal. Actually, I take it all back. You could still play d5, and this isn't such a big thing. Yeah. So actually, if you want to do that, maybe a way is start with h6, and then extract h4 from the guy, and then
Right.
c5. Definitely a rich position.
Yeah, now we're definitely getting into like piece sacrifice territory.
Right, and we're also getting in territory where black's going to put a rook on c8, and we're going to start looking at him, and we're going to think about d5 and b5 at some point too. Intuitively, I like black, but yeah, it's a total mess here, and yeah, we're gonna sacking on f5 is definitely gonna be a thought.
Yeah, I don't know, like knight b5 here, and
Yeah, knight b5.
looks really looks very fun for white. I mean, yeah, something is happening next few moves.
Let me just play a game. So queen b8, and I think I'm threatening e5. No, I'm not, because on e5 you have knight takes f5 then, and my bishop on e7 is undefended. So that actually gives you liberty to then play d5,
Yeah.
and then you're golden. So queen b8 is no good. Um, yeah, it's just gonna be fun. Yeah, I'm sure black can do other things. Oh, we got a result, Costa. We got a result.
Oh, Quasi turned it around.
What the freak happened? It was very quick. Wait, it was that beautiful game. Wait, what happened?
This was
What
the Evans.
happened?
It's supposed to be over.
Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we got it wrong. Let's see. This looks over to me. And now let's just do a gut check here. So I'm seeing almost equal pawns, and white has everything. Now, there's so many moves that he could do here. CD is a really obvious one. Rook D1 was played. Let's try that. Let's say that can't be wrong. But then that happened, and black suddenly uh, suddenly alive. Is it true? Hmm. C5. Look at that. He's kind of
Yeah.
sort of escaping. And then I'm going to guess he missed that move. Holy smokes. And he lost a piece. Man, that
Yeah.
happened fast. Man, that happened fast. So in this position, rook f8, white played rook d1 in 4.5 minutes, and rook d1 might still be winning, but we got to say this position is certainly winning for white. And yeah, but
Yeah, tough one. I mean, yeah, Rook D1 just feels kind of slow to me. Um, Even like I feel like Knight D2, Knight DC4 looked really nice for white.
what is the intention though with knight dc4?
It's just bringing a Rook to E1.
Because he is going to take on c3, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't see the danger of this pawn. So yeah, in the position where white played Rook D1, to me like either CD, which looks very simple,
Hmm.
or Knight D2, Knight C4.
Yeah, it's like one of these positions where it's definitely won. And the problem with rook d1, let's just state the obvious, is that the white's knight on b1 and rook a1 aren't participating. And so Kostya's knight d2 is just to be like, dude, we got to get everybody in. And for sure, I think that's what most attacking players would do, right? They'd go like knight d2, and if you take, even rook a d1 here is going to be fine because we just have everything going for us.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely everything. And then if you play something like this, then we'll play knight e4.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was thinking black would go D takes C3 for some reason, but yeah, Bishop C3, Rook A
You,
D1,
you could play
Knight
DC,
D5, Knight D.
DC2, and we're just going to open up all the lines. All right.
Hey, Pass Pawn.
Cool.
Thanks so much for the gifted subs.
Yeah, yeah,
Pass Pawn comes through every Sunday.
yeah. Fastball's saving us. Uh,
Hey Tyler, these are games from people in the Chess Dojo. So these two guys were playing a game as part of our ladder tournament, which is open to everyone. But we also have some round robin games with just some players from our group training sessions. I feel like we should go back to yeah, not much change in Mitch's game.
I'm looking at Nabatone and Kona Raider right now.
Yeah, these guys are getting down now.
They
Good
started
time use.
they started with less time than the other guys. I assume White has to be a little bit better here with like Bishop B3 or something, and the weird Queen on G7.
Yeah, looks like a free advantage for White.
I hadn't thought about advantages. Having you have to pay for an advantage. Sometimes maybe you got to pay for the advantage. Yeah. Okay. And then I kind of like let's talk briefly about what happened here with Joel's game. He played just calmly Rook AD1, and the good news there is he's just centralizing and not freaking out yet about this grip that Black has. And I think he can claim too that Black's not going to be crushing him until the bishop on G7 gets out anyway. So knight F6, bishop H4. I don't really understand bishop H4. And now queen B7 was played. Well, White continues to be a little bit worse.
Yeah, things are going according to plan. Bishop
Maybe
takes f6. Okay, that's
I know what he wants. He wants to play D5 next,
big
and
decision.
it's not. It's Black is just a little bit better after D5, right? Maybe. Okay, so the good news about D5, which I assume is about to come, is that you've transformed the position from a place of not feeling comfortable. However, you are certainly worse after D5 because the bishop on F6 is much better. Like, for example, D5 was played as predicted. If at any point Black can play bishop takes F3, for example, and
Mhm.
the dark square bishop is better than the light square bishop.
Yeah, right now, actually, I think it would be totally understandable to go bishop f3, and b5, just to make sure we get this break.
Or you could say to yourself, White's next move is seemingly C4 anyway, and then take on F3 with the notion that your bishop is free. Both seem plausible to me. Yours is maybe I actually yours is simpler. Let's just put that on the board. Yeah, nice easy advantage for Black. And then next move maybe Rook B8.
Hmm.
Oh man, Joel, and he's got he's time is dipping down. One thing about
Uh,
this, go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was asking the questions. Knight h2, an idea for White. Not necessarily like trap the light squared bishop. I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, if the point is only to go knight g4, then Black just goes bishop g7, and eventually the knight will get kicked with h5. So it's probably not going to be the best use of time here for White.
One thing that I was thinking of, I was trying to come up with ways for White to deal with this grip that Black has, and one dirty trick I thought about was maybe I go king h2 followed by knight d2, and if bishop g2, then I trap the bishop with f3.
Yeah.
I'm sure Black will be able to come up with something against that. But what White did is now, let's say he bails now into a poor ending, and also not only that, now let's just say the obvious. He took on f6 so that he could play d5 to limit the force of this diagonal. However, however, he has just made this bishop into a monster. an
Right.
absolute beast. And yeah, it's not. It's probably only clearly worse on a technical level, but from a strategic level, this is very unpleasant for white. I think, especially if black just plays patiently. Um, I like what you did, Bishop F3, and just because it was such a clean advantage for black. Um,
Yeah, very comfortable.
I have a feeling
Um, but
Kramnik
I
would.
would
Yeah,
totally consider just continuing with like bishop f5, bishop d7.
totally right. There's so many GMs who'd be like, "I'm never giving you my bishop.
Yeah.
You're never getting my bishop." So it's a little bit of a question about taste there. One thing I really like about what you did though is those bishops of opposite color middle games. It's all about who has the initiative, and it just by far, it's black who has the initiative in that position.
Yeah.
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 All
Well,
right.
we'll see.
Now let's talk a little bit about Vegas and other tournaments. So you're dreaming about a GM norm, and
Yeah.
what kind of training do you imagine yourself doing before this happens?
Oof. Well, I feel like I gotta get my openings on track. I gotta start killing people with white, killing people with black.
Uh-huh.
Uh, my calculation can definitely use some work, and my end game play could be a lot better.
Right.
So, a couple things.
You just said everything. You said everything. I don't know
I
what
feel
else
like, yeah,
we
to
could have
sum it
mentioned.
up, I don't know how to play chess. I'm weak. I'm slow. I need to just like, yeah, rediscover things.
Um, One thing that I think we could think about is trying to imagine what kind of positions you want. Then you could like work on your openings to try to get those positions, and then train yourself on the skills required to win those positions. So, for example, I I feel like with your match with Lawrence, I gotta look into your chess soul, and
Mhm.
I feel like you are definitely a reactive positional player. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, uh, and so, right, like for example, when you play against the Grunfeld, that endgame variation is cool, but I'm not sure you want to do the H4s of the world. Like, I think the H4 is a theoretical idea, which is really spicy and interesting, but I don't think that's the position you want. You see what I'm saying?
I don't know. Honestly, I prefer the attacking positions to the dry end games. Uh, when it comes to like what I'm getting out of the opening.
Uh huh. Okay.
But I should tell you, you were definitely right in our analysis. King F1, that was the move.
Oh, right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. That was an interesting. That was a really interesting position with King F1. It was funny because I really did believe in your H4 plan. We're talking about a game that Kostya played in this tournament that happened recently. Uh,
yeah. Now, objectively, what I did was not right. There were much better options there for me. Even like Bishop D3, if you remember, after Black played F5, just
right.
losing a tempo, but just defending the
Hmm.
pawn. Um, but yeah, I think I feel like one way or another, I need to be a little bit more consistent in the openings. Like if I'm going to play these aggressive lines, I should have them prepped or at least some experience.
Hmm.
And if I'm going to play the slow stuff, then I should have experience in kind of trying to convert those in games as well. I feel like the issue I'm often getting into is, yeah, getting positions that I don't actually have that much experience in, other than just looking at it on the computer.
Let's continue this conversation while we're looking at Nabatone's last move. The guy, he played G5, my friend. He
Oh
played
man,
G5, and um, black. So let me just say, to me, like the move to play without even thinking about it would have been Queen F6 to guard against this D6 stuff and to consolidate your business. Instead, we get G5, and now I feel like black is much much worse now, and the obvious move would be to start invading with like Queen D6. And I know that Nabatone is thinking, well, then I'll play Rook H6, but the queen's not going away anytime soon. And
Yeah, I think what he was worried about was queen f6 f4 ef4 e5. That'd be my guess, something like this.
good guess, because otherwise, why? I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
We got to get into somebody's mind. Why are they playing this move? But after f4 is very controversial, because let's say I take, and you
Mhm.
play e5, and I just move. I'm threatening Queen c5, and
Yeah, so like rook f4.
good. And can. I don't think I want bishop e6, because then you can take and stuff.
Right, probably just castle.
Castles. It is true that my pawn would rather be on h7 here. So,
To me, black is worse here, but not as worse as g5 queen d6, in my opinion.
I'm going to admit, though, that this is worse than I at first thought it was going to be. At first, I thought queen f6 would hold without much difficulty, but the pawn on h5 is going to mean that at some point rook f6 is going to come, and it will be unpleasant.
Yeah.
So, and the obvious move is to just start off with queen f3 and then pound. And if you ever play bishop e6, which maybe you have to, then I'm going to snip and play rook f6, and it's going to be some drama. Um, okay. And that's going to go to time pressure. Queen d6 was played.
Big time. Yeah, anything can still happen, but white's position is really, really comfortable.
Oh,
Um,
and Mitch kind of did it the way my first instinct, which was to encourage c4 and then take on f3. Um, and this, actually, the way he got it, I think, is even better, because Joel played c4 when he did. Now Mitch is all set to play b5 after this bishop takes f3. And I'm going to guess that Joel didn't see bishop takes f3. He didn't think it was going to be a big positional threat, because it feels like, oh, he's giving my bishop or something. So here he has to choose between bishop f3 and black plays b5 and white is clearly worse, or he plays gf and black does not at least easily play b5 and he's worse with a kingside deformation.
yeah, long term, it definitely feels very unpleasant for white, but we'll see how much Mitch really pushes this one. I don't see him as like a huge grinder. I would be very nervous if I was if I was white against you in this position. I'd be like, okay, we're gonna be here for a couple hours.
Right. Oh yeah, no, for sure.
And yeah, Jesse's just gonna look for any little thing. GF3.
I think gf3 was the right decision. It doesn't look right at first, but on bishop f3, b5 would it be a very easy move to play, and I think that one's close to lost, or at least maybe there might be some magical defense here, but I'm not seeing it. It looks really bad.
It looks very unpleasant for sure.
Yeah. So at least with gf3, we're saying, yes, my pawns are terrible. Yes, your bishop's great, but at least your rooks aren't going to find freedom anytime soon.
Hey, Rat River Trapper, thanks for the sub. And yeah, thanks, Bubba, for the comment. Bubba was saying that the more he sees us stream, the more he realizes that higher rated players are much better at quickly generating variations. Yeah, I think it's just all relative. I think when I watch someone like Svidler or Magnus, especially, talk about chess, they just kind of instantly come up with moves that are not obvious to me. So I think we all have that feeling.
Right. Well, here's a variation. Let's say queen d7, and white defends somehow. I'm not even sure how he's supposed to do it. Take your pick, right? Let's put king g2 on the board for a
King
second.
G2, yeah.
Queen f5, and we're talking. We're gonna start talking to the white king sooner than later. And yeah, this is very unpleasant. Very unpleasant, I think. No
Right.
counterplay for white. No counterplay at
But
all.
it's a long game. I think it's a very long game. It's just like they're
Might
always ready
not.
to play b5 and activate if white gives you the chance. And otherwise, you're playing
Yeah.
like maybe h5, king h7.
I don't know how long it's gonna be.
Do you think black has like a very clear like okay, like white will just go let's say queen d3.
By the way, now maybe king g2. We might be able to do better than king g2. But all right, queen d3. Now with queen d3, you are sacking the pawn on b2.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please take it.
Right,
Please.
please take it. Fair enough. Fair enough. Good. All right, queen h5. You probably want to
Yeah, let's say
defend it.
let's just say like b3.
Good. Yeah,
Probably
b3.
have to play this.
And black needs some creative way to get his rooks in, and he should be thinking about b5 soon to sack the pawn and get the rook to a2 to create a second front, right? So here, I'm just going to assume the natural first. You can do a take back if you want. And actually, yeah, so either rook a3 or rook a2. I don't know which one yet. Something like that. And the bummer, of course, is because we've seen this in so many Benko positions, right? Because of the jerk bishop, you can't challenge me on a1.
Yeah. These positions can be deceptively challenging for white because I mean, at first glance, it doesn't look like it's that bad, but it's just like black has this like powerful. I don't know what to call it. It's like a vacuum, like this bishop on f6, rook on the a file, and it can just sweep anything that challenges it.
Right. And there's other ways for black to get in. Basically, his challenge is we don't care. The value of initiative has gone up because the bishop is of opposite color, and we don't care as much about pawns as we normally do. And now we're interested. If we can get the rooks in any way, we're going to be doing great in any way. All right, let's check in on Herr Vishnu. What do we got here? So, Queen e8 may be okay. Bishop d3, knight bd7, voluntary h4, and now c5.
Hmm. c5 definitely inviting knight b5. I'm not sure if that's intentional.
Right. And since there's no h6, e5, like let's say knight b5, e5, white can just play bishop g5, and no problems. Let's well,
Yeah, we
definitely.
should check in with the Scotch game because they had some trades.
Okay.
Looks like white.
What? What happened? Okay.
Oh, white cashed in. White cashed in. I didn't realize he won a pawn.
Oh,
Now,
may
someone said a blunder happened in the Scotch game, but actually, I wasn't. I'm not sure if it was a blunder for white or a blunder for black because black lost a pawn. But on the other hand, now has the healthiest position they've seen. Maybe it's not that healthy. But as soon
it's
as I like,
it's a good question if it's healthy. Um, in
yeah, the e pawn is weak.
Now the only now I'm not sure, King G6 seems suicidal to me. Um, but Rook F7, it's actually going to be a similar position. So for example, King G6, Rook AD1, and if rook AF8 at the default position for us would be rook 1 d6, right? So like, here, 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 here. And I think the reason to say that white is winning is that, first of all, the good news for black is the white king is not yet involved. The terrible news for black is that there's e5's weak, c6 is weak, a7's weak, and even g5, h5 could later become a victim. Whereas white there's
Yeah.
no counterplay, nothing.
No counterplay. Yeah, f3 just holds everything, and white's just a pawn up. So any rook trade is winning. Yeah. Right. I was thinking they got this endgame without the winning the pawn. I thought, oh, what has white done? But no, this is actually pretty clean.
Let me
Um,
see if this was all. Now, let me just say, the obvious. I think both Kostya and I's reaction was, no, you shouldn't have cashed in for the pawn. But this seems like maybe this wasn't so terrible. I want
Definitely
to,
a good decision, I think, for a blitz game.
I wanted rook f8 first of all. Doesn't maybe it doesn't make that big of a difference. No, it's just it doesn't make that big of a difference. No, it's totally lost, unfortunately. Okay, let's see what Mitch is gonna do. We've got gf3, queen d7 did happen, and this is, first of all, they both have loads of time.
Hmm. But they haven't been playing quickly. I think just the first 10 moves were pretty well known to both players, and then they spent some time on their next 10. So I feel like time management has been pretty good for these guys.
And I don't know immediately like how I would put the pieces for white. It's kind of definitely a hard decision, because let's say the basic question is, do you want to play the king to either h2 or g2, or do you want to play bishop f1? Probably, maybe bishop f1 might just be bad because of queen f5, and if bishop g2 comes, I'm just assuming that b5 is going to be a real pain now or soon.
Yeah,
And otherwise, you should just play king g2, I guess. So Mitch is putting a good game together here. Yeah,
for sure.
he watched your video.
I think he did.
He watched your video.
Still seems like pretty drawish to me overall. But yeah, black is the one pushing here, so it'll be instructive to see what kind of pressure he's able to come up with.
What are you talking about, Kosti? Before I dismiss that comment out of hand that it's drawish, I want to say no pawn for you, as that's what's going on. We are doing, this is the Chess Dojo, Sunday night at the fights. We got a bunch of guys playing from the dojo. Me and Kosti are just hanging out, making snide comments about them.
Yeah, no, I think, well, I'm taking into account the level of these two players, and I think it's like 80% draw.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
But
No, I'm
but the
with
higher rate of the players, the more chances I give black. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's because at some point black might have to sack a pawn with b5. That's like not gonna be easy to decide on.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the bummers is, as long as black keeps up the pressure, uh, he can play with very little risk, and he can. There's so many different ways he can try to open the position. So that's, as well. But all right, that's interesting. I would say, I bel I hear what you're saying about sacrifice. So let me just put what you just said, and I think the context, right, is black needs to understand that the value of initiative has gone up and the value of material has gone down, so that sacking a pawn just to open the position at some point is going to be what he needs to do to finish white off.
That's right. Yeah. I don't think black wins this with an extra pawn. Black wins this with active rook.
Right.
Yeah, something I brought up earlier in one of my classes today is like the winning condition. That is black's winning condition. Just getting a rook or two to the second rank uncontested, I think that's going to be hugely, hugely problematic for white because there's always ideas. There's like the queen is putting pressure. There's the bishop coming to h4 and hitting f2. So it's, yeah, potential weaknesses for white. I guess I'm just jaded. I've been burned before during these like commentary things where you talk about how black can put pressure and then the game is agreed drawn in like the next 30 seconds.
Well, that was you traumatized by Mitch versus Vishnu from a week ago.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
I
Well, okay.
feel
So
like they had lower time.
so Mitch did play Queen F5. So yeah, it's very intuitive play. Um, I like the phrase "condition of winning" or the winning condition. By the way, I want so that made me think that maybe they're teaching you cool stuff at this seminar. Like, did they teach you any cool words like the winning condition or things like that?
No, that's one I picked up from like video games. Sometimes we'll have that. Let's see. I took some notes. Um, the most interesting thing that Agard said today in his class, a couple things. Um, Number one, learning to calculate should be done like learning everything else, first slowly and then faster. So in the analogy he used is like when you first learn how to drive, you obviously first learn how to drive slowly and you're in control. And only then you can work your way up to like driving on the freeway and multitasking and what we like typically do. I think that makes a lot of sense because so many players, they're like, yeah, they're just trying to like blurt out variations and just go super fast. They see knight b5, they think queen b8 is forced. They see a different move, they see this, and then it's like they're missing so many things along the way.
Right.
And he said that most of his training, even though he works with extremely strong grandmasters, is focusing on the first three moves when it comes to calculation. So less about like deep calculation and finding deeper resources, more about seeking candidates in the first three moves and not overlooking less obvious ideas from the start.
No, that's cool. Yeah. Vintage wants us to go back to move 20 in this Scotch game. And I assume he's wondering, was bishop f7 needed? It looks like it gets the job done. My just gut is that queen c7 is winning within a couple moves. Like it will be over very soon after queen
Right.
c7 because rook d1's coming. Vintage, was that your question about this bishop takes f7 move? Seems plausible there. Bishop f7, king d8. Oh, good question. Good question.
Oof, what a miss.
This is
I
why
don't know
we
if
do.
it's good, but
This is why we do those calculation exercises.
yeah, king d8.
No,
That's really nice.
definitely. That's what Black should have done. And Vintage, you were right. We didn't even think about it. One thing I
Well, yeah, it's not over. Maybe queen d2 and then taking on g5.
no, but I have queen. Okay, let's take a look. Queen d2, snip, snip. Now, so if queen f6, you could play queen g8, and that might be annoying. So
Yeah.
I'll play rook f6,
Mm-hmm.
and you got a couple pawns, but this is
Yeah, some pawns. Well, let's see. Do we have time for
Black should be
rook d1?
so happy to get this. Rook d1. I'm just gonna come either c8 or c7. Oh no! Now you have queen e5 and then rook d7, so I can't actually do that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 100% agree, though. I mean, this is a much better try. I mean, the only move it looks like king d8.
And then we got a couple moves here, but like queen e7, for example, is certainly a move just to keep my pawn. Yeah, that looks solid. Yeah, good find, Vintage. Good find. I think I'm guilty both as a player and a commentator by often just assuming that uh, my opponent has got it figured it out. So when I saw Bishop F7, I was like, well, yeah, that's probably got to be good. And Nabatone also thought that bishop f7 had to be good, but no. And it's funny. You know what's funny about bishop f7 too is that it felt unnecessary, right? It felt like you don't need to be a genius and play moves like bishop f7. You just play queen c7 and rook d1. And so that might have been a clue to find king d8. Just that, like, this looks unnecessary and wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, good
And it
finding.
just goes to show maybe queen c7 was, yeah, indeed the best move, just because that looks like
Right.
painful for black. Hey, Knight's Tour, good to see you. We're doing well. Actually, I'll have to get running soon because they're gonna send me my my exam over email. Um,
All right, everybody, check this out. So this is Kostya's final exam. If he does this, he will become. Is it called a FIDE trainer? Is that what it's called?
Honestly, man, I don't even know. I think there's gonna be like different. I think there's gonna be different titles. There's gonna be trainers for people who work with like IMs and GMs, and then there's gonna be trainers for people who work with like kids in school.
Uh huh.
So I don't know what I'm going out here for.
Cool. Well, I
So
might do it myself at some point. If you know, I'll say this for myself is like I always felt like a lot of this stuff was a scam. For example, back in the day, FIDE would charge people to get their titles, for example, and it was like
yeah,
a money making machine for them. So that's why this thing also feels funny to me. But I just because I would love to do things like teaching or coaching the national youth team, that would be such a cool thing for me to do, that I'd be willing to play whatever game they want me to play for, and pay their 200 euros just so I could have that possibility, which I guess is probably what motivated you to do it as well.
yeah, exactly. Just like okay, get the title and um, yeah, see if it comes with any benefits. Exactly, limited time on the exam. I think it's like an hour and 15 minutes. So yeah, we'll see. You can ask me on Discord. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Yeah. And GT is a FIDE trainer, and he says it
Oh,
was
that's
a
awesome.
cool thing. So yeah, maybe I'll do it.
Yeah.
All
Well, I
right.
will. Yeah, I'll leave you to it, Jesse.
All right. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck.
Thanks.
We'll see you soon. Well, actually, tell us what's your next Twitch thing going on.
Let's see. Oh, tomorrow I will be back for Norm Hunter
Uh huh.
with Strong Chess.
Cool.
Maybe we'll go over his game with Weak Chess. It's a
How did that go?
classic. I actually don't know. I remember seeing it live, and then I don't know.
Cool. All right.
So I'll find out. So I'll be tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, and we're gonna get more YouTube videos coming up this week. More of that too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
guys.
All right, Kosi. Good luck.
Thanks so much. See you, everyone.
All right, guys. I am going to. I'm gonna take this away. So let's see. Just take this window out of here, and I'll transition back so that you guys can see just my lovely face, because that's what you wanted the whole time. See, I might make myself a little bit bigger. Doesn't really matter. All right, here we go. Boom. And studio. Now, one thing that happened while we were talking was that, this whole transition happened, and I was very much in favor of Queen F5. And Kosi was saying, in fact, it wasn't going to be easy. And one thing that I didn't appreciate when I said this was that F4 would, in fact, create at least a question mark for black, which is, how do you feel about Bishop G4? And let's just make a move. I don't know, anywhere, just make some move. This would be an amazing perpetual. So, at the very least, a good combative move from Joel to play F4. And in general, he does want to put the pawns on dark squares, by all means. So his pawns can fight for the dark squares and he can get the light squares. Question mark is really if this is going to be a weakening of the king or not. And if black has to play h5, I think we have to say that this worked out for Joel, because now in the game I believe bishop d3 was played, and the queen went back. And because the pawn is on h5, it means that the black king position, I wouldn't want to call it weak or anything, but yeah, white can potentially maybe generate some play on g6, whereas previously there was nothing going on against g6. Um, well, GT, that's a good question. I think f4 was a good thing because it got the queen out of dodge, and like right now, Joel's thinking about it, and king h2, rook g1 is a simple way to at least do something. That has been in the other position when we started this. My concern was white was just worse because he couldn't do anything. But after h5, he can do stuff. And arguably, then my queen f5, I was just the first move that came to mind, might be have been inaccurate. Let me just look at it for a second. Um, an easier way to have dealt with this bishop g4 thing would have been the very simplistic bishop g7, just so that bishop g4 is met by queen f6. And by all means, in those positions, black keeps his, let's say, call it huge positional advantage, um, and keeps the queen. The queen, the queen should be dreaming about finding its way to the dark squares, just putting the pieces on the dark squares in general. And I would call this a clear advantage for black, whereas in the game with h5, I think Joel gets a little bit of, well, a little bit of play. And the obvious thing, of course, is the bishop, the white's light square bishop, was bad going into this middle game, and the question becomes, can it ever become a hero or not? Um, Rook a1. He could have played rook a1 and stay put. I assume black will eventually open squares, open lines, and then the ideas for him would be to open on the g file or open with e6 at some point, e6 slash e5. And the bummer about rook a1 is just it's a little bit passive over there. I like what he did. I think this was his best shot to be active. And rook g1 next seems like just a promising way to start this party here. And this could flip in the other direction. Joel might actually end up with a chance here. Rook a1. We can look, yeah. So, first of all, I don't think f4 really hurt white's position that much. But let's go ahead and play rook a1. And then black needs a dream. Let's say, for example, there's more than one move, but queen g5, king goes somewhere. I'm not really sure. And then queen h4. Yeah, there's a little bit of drama, right? A little bit of drama. And if, say, rook f1, I mean, it's just unpleasant. Yeah. Right. King back. Yeah. Good. And yeah, this is just very pleasant. So, variety of plans, like I said. At some point, we might think of playing king h8, bishop e5, g5, and then think about rook g8 at some point. And the point of g5 is mostly to make sure that f4 never happens. No more f4 for you, buddy. But we're in no rush to play it. We just want to get it ready. So yeah, very unpleasant position. And this rook just kind of has to sit here, which is doesn't really want to do. And this rook, if my b rook wants to go to g8, at some point I might throw this in too. And like we said, at some point black wants to dream about b5, and even if I'm sacking the pawn. So yeah, I like what Joel did instead, and let's see how it went down. King h2 was played. Good. He's got plenty of time. And yeah, I think Rook G1's coming. I think this is like White has reasonable counterplay. Okay, so I gotta get off. I think I gotta do something on Discord here. Just a moment. I'm like in a call with Kostya, and I, I don't, I need to get out of the call with Kostya. Well, how do I disconnect? I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say I'm already disconnected. I think let's just get rid of it. Okay, so I'm back. So yeah, White has some play. Let's look at what. Oh, I gotta make an announcement. Nabatone lost. It was predictable from that endgame, and bummer. Oh, that one hurt me a little bit. I was rooting for Nabatone. I was rooting for Nabatone. So we got two games left, and the other one, of course, is Vishnu. Oh my God, we got to look deeper at what happened here. So uh, we got we got this move, which is what Kostya wanted. E5, snip, snip, bishop g5, and now black needs something amazing. Frankly, it looks terrible. It looks awful because, simply put, black has two problems to deal with, right? He's got to worry about knight c7 and he's got to worry about knight takes f5, and they both look very unpleasant. Maybe there's some trickery. I'm not that hopeful for black. Yeah, so black needs a miracle here. And interestingly, he kind of fell into a trick that we kind of worked out earlier, right? Like c5 positionally is by all means something that he should have on his radar. White's problem is that you know black's not white's not really doing anything yet, and so a simpler move for a simpler time would have been h6 here, just to make the e5 move at some point a threat. It would be a threat, in fact, immediately. And then, well, white has to find a good move after h6. After c5, though, things are getting freaky. That's right, knight's turn. No counterplay on the queen side. Though, if you start off with h6 and you ask white what he's going to do, if I get c5 in, I will get, I assume, c5 at some point, and my rook will land on the c file. So I will get probably something. And white's problem, a lot of his pieces aren't really that great, like this guy. I was against that move from the start. In fact, if we go back here, this is where Kostya wanted h4, I wanted h3. One of those moves. I liked h3 just because the dream of g4 was such a good dream. Uh, yeah, so one of those moves. I liked h3 a lot, honestly. Like, let's say knight d7, and then just get out of dodge. Just get out of dodge, and now we might be threatening d5. We can start thinking about g4. This can come. Knight f4 is just an annoying move to face. So this would have been, I think, the way for white to have played, but black, I think, blew it with c5. Unless he has an amazing move, like we said right now, and he's playing e4. So white's default move, I guess, is going to be fe here, but he could also consider bishop e2. Both look reasonable. Maybe bishop. Okay. Now the good news for black is, at least after e4 it's a little bit messy. And he needs some messiness right now. He definitely needs some messiness. How did white castle queenside? Let's take a look. Uh, this was kind of the beginning of the game. I thought black made a controversial move actually here to play a5. And one of the reasons black later gets no counterplay is a5 curiously like makes it harder for black to open things with a6 and b5 later. Anyways, bishop e7. The bishop's bad, but also the knight on e2 is bad. f3, and I feel pretty good about my move here, d5. I think d5 should have been played, followed by castles. Uh, anyways, we got f3. Knight h5 was interesting here. D6, I believe, castles, castles, and then we had knight g3, queen e8 in this position, which I think black is back in it because the knight on g3 is so weird, and so h6 seems like it would have been fine. Does d5 lose a pawn? I assume we're talking about the game position or something. Paul in New Jersey, which d5 earlier on. I see what you mean. Good question. So that might have been what dissuaded Vishnu from playing d5. And in this position, I wasn't even entirely sure what white should do, but knight g3 looked vicious because we're threatening knight f5, and if you do some sad move like g6, then I'm just going to castle along, and that seemed like immense compensation. Just immense compensation. And again, maybe knight g3, there's other moves too, like knight d4 would have been a thought as well. But yeah, this looks really brutal. Yeah. Right, a5 is sometimes a normal move, but it's weird because white wasn't like, you'd only play a5 if you thought white was like playing a3, b4. So if we go back to it, okay, so this is what we said. That black has two ways of playing, I think. He can do castles, a3, and then takes. This was the simplistic way of playing, and then I thought black was a little bit better here because the bishop on f4 feels misplaced. Or if you wanted to keep the bishop, you could do bishop e7. And it's a much more complicated game, but because both now the bishop on e7 is bad and the knight on e2 is bad, so it's a kind of judgment call. But definitely a5. I'm really not afraid of b4 because white is in no position to be playing b4. He might want to castle queenside. B, he's got to develop his stuff. You got to develop your stuff. So yeah, let's check in on this. e4. Vishnu's going to think as he should here, but my sense is probably both moves are winning. Bishop e2 and fe. Let's look at Joel's making some counterplay. He's making some counterplay. All right, buddy. Good job. One amazing thing now about this position is Joel could potentially bail. He could potentially bail with queen b6, rook b7, and like queen c6. After which it's got to be said he's not losing anymore. Now, why there still might be no rush to do it though, because we might simply have a nice initiative, and black, we can say, is simply no longer doing anything special anymore. But the question then is like, okay, exactly what do we do? Rook g2 is the obvious. Just double and create pressure on the g file. And a threat could be like rook g2, rook here, and then f5, g5, f4, for example, is at least a thought for white. Oh yeah, Joel, buddy, you're coming back, bro. You're coming back. That's right, GT. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff going to happen. And in fact, at any point, f5, if it forces black to play g5, well, yeah, f5 now is a violent move. So there's more. So f5, rook g2, and then there's the bailout with queen b6. So Mitch has radically misplayed his advantage, beginning with the move h5. That's my just gut, response to it as the way it looks now. It's funny too because Kostya was saying this thing that I disagreed with. He was like, these guys aren't going to be able to play this kind of advantage," and he was right. And now, because I was thinking, I was imagining from that position, here I was saying to myself, this is a position where black is going to grind on white all day long. And Vishnu or Kostya was like, no, it's not going to happen. And he was totally right. Yeah. So there we have it. Let's check in a little bit here. Yeah, bishop e2. Now bishop e2, at least in this is by all means a moment where you want to calculate, but bishop e2 is the move that seemed right to me, at least intuitively. This looks terrible. Because if you lose the f5 pawn, it's not just the pawn. It's like the knight on g3 went from 0 to hero, and black's king is permanently toast. Zero counterplay against the white king. Yeah, miserable. Totally miserable. All right, let's go back to the famous Ryobica game and look at this position and see what happened here. It looks like rook g2 was played. Fantastic. Fantastic. Here we go. And like I said earlier about Joel, like the guy is actually a madman. And what's funny about it, of course, is London players, it's, they have the reputation of being like these boring people. And maybe some of them are, but Joel, man, he's a madman. He wants to hurt people. He really wants to hurt people. And rook g2 looks correct. Like I said, there were other moves. And I don't think one of the problems for black is the f5 move isn't going anywhere, right? And we definitely want this rook to move, not only because of the g file, but our queen would like to look at h5 and just these squares in general. So this looks real rough for Mitch right now. Yeah. GT's mate, by the way, was rook g1, queen d1, queen h5, gh, and mate. Now, let's assume that black can defend it a variety of ways with like rook a8, but the drama is really simple in that the queen will be useful there, and then f5 will come, and it's going to be hard to meet. Yeah, and it's funny with the opposite color bishops because now there is zero play for black. So it's this great example where the initiative is what counts with the opposite color middle game, and that's what's going on here. Yeah. Yeah, it seems totally brutal. Oh, Nabatone, I'm still bummed out. I'm going to write him an email. Just, is it mean to write him an email? I'm just going to tell him. I'm going to say, Nate, buddy, King D8. I trusted Bishop F7 at first too, bro. Okay. So, get to this position. Our friend, oh yeah, these Mitch's thing. I don't even know. The thing about Mitch's position is I don't even know what to do here. Is the really bummer about it. And, you know, I don't really want to take the pawn on b6, but there might even, I'm sure black is also worrying about the pawn, and maybe the thing we could tell him is just like, don't even worry about the pawn on b6. You've got bigger problems than worrying about the pawn on b6, and if white takes there, at least the queen will be diverted, and you will get probably some counterplay. So let's do this. Let's say rook a8. Now f5 is a good move. Rook dg1 is a good move. Yeah. Is there a rating cap? No. I think Connor Rader, good move. I don't know if I just sent Nate an email, by the way, and what I think it was GT noticed. Somebody noticed that on bishop f7, which looked right, Nate had king d8. He had king d8 and was like, oh no. And the thing about bishop f7 was that you could have just played queen c7, and we just felt like that was absolutely lost for black because of rook d1 coming the next move. Now, if he has to take on f7, you're absolutely right. Then bishop f7 is a genius move. And the problem with king d8 is just so. Maybe I'm sure both you missed it in time pressure. Yeah. So I'm trying to imagine what I would do. All right, I'm going to try rook g7. I'm going to try rook g7. I'm just going to play some natural moves and see what happens here for a second. So rook a8. And so my hope will be that if f5, I play g5, and if queen d1, I try to survive with rook h7. Well, it's at least a thought. It's probably not the greatest idea, but it's a thought at least. I assume this is still totally lost, and this might be winning outright immediately. But at least this is something that white has to consider. So, for example, here, 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 I don't really want to exchange rooks, and let's say snip, 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 king g7, like maybe the guy gets out. Maybe. Let's stress maybe. Let's stress maybe on that one. He might somehow slip away. Yeah, Mitch is very strong, and yeah, rook g7. You got to do something, right? You got to do something. Let's see what he's coming up with. Mitch's weakness is that sometimes he plays this too fast, and he definitely played the queen f5 h5 thing too fast. I think Mitch, when I think about openings, that guy is like, really advanced with the openings. So maybe 2400. Let's give him a 2400 opening rating. Yeah. I feel like he has time to play it. So like rook a8 still allows for the rook g7 idea. Let's try this again. Rook g7, rook over, rook here. Why don't I play queen d1 immediately? And it would be very bold to play bishop takes b2, but at least you'd have something for your troubles. But otherwise, let's play a more normal looking move. Let's play rook h7 right away and just ask white if he really can crack me or not. So f5 g5 would transpose to what we had earlier. Yeah, it's not over. It's not over yet. Feels like it should be, but it's not over yet. Because we don't have the dark squares, right? We don't have the dark squares. All right. Check in with Vishnu. What's going on? His opponent's thinking they're only on move 17. Let's see, I'm going to use this as my own personal my own personal training session. So, in the game we have rook g2. Let's do rook g7. Rook a8 I think is similar. Uh, rook over rook here. I don't really want to even think about taking on b6. Queen d1, rook h7. Now the exchange sack with f5, g5, rook g5 is at least promising, but it's not like, I don't think it's the end of the world. And something that's looks a little funny, but we can talk about anyways. f5, g5, f4. And I was a little concerned with g4, but it's definitely a little hokey to play g4. Maybe the guy could actually get away with this silly looking move here, takes. That's also hard to believe, but maybe. So when you think about it, like, black wants to play rook g8 anyway. So this is your moment with f5. Unless you want to keep it on, you want to keep the queen on b3 for whatever reason. I don't know why you keep it on b3. Let's look at the exchange sack again. Now, one thing I didn't even look at too much was f5 takes. I just assumed that that was terrible. I think it is terrible too. For one thing, this rook is hanging, so there's no e6. So in that case, it's just absolutely terrible. F5, g5, snip, snip, rook g8. Oh, and a vicious move, a very vicious move from white here, because this queen is just not participating, would be h4 or f4. h4 seems better to me. Yeah, that's chess right there. That's chess, and then we can just improve. We can improve, and we'll be threatening f6 very soon. Oh yeah, that's good. I like that. That feels lost to me, man. Whoa, buddy. That feels really terrible. Yeah. Black goes f6 and something like this, right? Well, totally possible, but then he's got to worry about rook g6. And arguably, I guess you could say he's just going to sit. And maybe you sit and try to survive. So for white, it's a little bit of it'll be some interesting decisions if we get something like this, because we've got that and then also this one. And like, in general, I don't want to trade the rook, but of course I am making some good progress here. But maybe the king is just running, right? The bummer, this where it gets really hard to believe, though, is this guy is not in. Not in the position. Not participating. Yeah. Okay, Vishnu's got to move. Some weird stuff has happened. Do I understand it? Probably not. Oh yeah, it's just totally lost here. He's got Vishnu has the pawn and the compensation here, so he can do truly whatever he wants now. After rook d6, turn on some lights. It's gotten dark since I started. Yeah. Bubba, who are you playing next? I feel like you were talking about a game that you have coming on. You're playing. Oh, I think you said something like you're playing Vishnu next Sunday, something like that, right? Yeah, I think f6 was a good idea. How do you submit games for your show? Um, so one thing I should say, I have a monthly show with chess.com that I broadcast here. And so if you go to chess.com into forums and then look at me, like search my name under forums, that's the easiest way. If you just Google my name and say something like chess.com member analysis, you'll find it as well. I do that once a month, and the only real requirement is it has to be a longer game and it needs to be annotated, at least at some length. The show's become kind of popular, so now I have to make a decision. I usually cover about 18 games, and so I have to make a decision. The bummer this last time around was that I had technical grief, some very bummerific technical grief, and I could not figure it out. So I lost the audio. Lost the audio on that one. So I'm not. It was the audio was so terrible. I'm not gonna put it to the YouTube channel, but you can watch the replay. I guess still on the Twitch. It's just that the sound was so terrible. Yeah, I'm totally with you, Sam, about the night games, and I wouldn't want to do it either, honestly. And I'm trying to get up early as well, so that's a thing for me too. Let's see what happens in this game here. So we got rook AA8 was played, DG1, and then I think this is Black's moment for rook G7 is the most tenacious defense. Yeah, I honestly don't even. Okay, he did it. Okay, so now Joel's in the driver's seat, and it's time to make some moves. Now, there might be other ideas besides Queen D1, but I don't see them yet. Queen D1 certainly feels like the move. Here's a bizarre idea actually. Maybe what we could do, this is actually maybe important. We could say that maybe we have time to mess with black. So if Queen D1, Rook, I don't know which one he should do on it. No, I think he has to do this because F5 is a big threat. Okay. Would it be cool to play H4? Would it be cool to play H4? So it'd be pretty involved to do. You're obviously trying to get F5. This feels a little janky to me. I'm worried about E6's later. I'm worried about E6 later. It's kind of a thought though, sure. Yeah. So I think taking is probably bad because then I'm going to get something like that. And I'm going to assume that that's toast. Um, H4 would be the very ambitious way for Joel to play in this position here. We called this. I mean, all this happened. I didn't. There was no other idea for black though, right? Other than rook G7. So there's H4 as an idea here. Queen D1 hasn't been played yet, and maybe there's some other move. I'm kind of assuming that queen takes b6 is just bad, but you know, I have my senses it's probably also a little bit vicious. So, for example, if you take the pawn, queen c6 should be a much better endgame for white. But really, this is not what you want because the rooks now don't make any sense over there on the king side, right? But it's true that if you could force this pawn to c6, that the pawn on c6 will never die. No, we don't want this though. I'm sure he might be thinking about it though. This could be a part of his drama for what he's thinking. He did not do it though. He played queen d1, very good. And Joel has played really well with the time. Like I said before, I agree. He shouldn't be doing queen takes b6. I think he's played this very well. And we've talked a lot about positions with opposite color bishops. So he's proven himself after the middle game didn't go well for him. Turned this around really nicely. We're assuming rook h7. So GT is talking about some kind of e4, e5 business. Maybe. Yeah. Honestly, it's very rich for white, right? Like, it is a very rich position where all kinds of things here could go down for. So let's just count it out. First of all, maybe we're wrong in thinking that rook h7 is the only move, but let's just assume it for a second. So candidate moves are like queen f3, h4, f5, and some kind of thing with e4. E4 is very controversial just in that it's, well, let's say not controversial, but committal because you're giving up some key dark squares. And it very much has to work. once you do it, it's going to have to work. For example, once you play e4, you need to have an answer to e5. But it totally, yeah, it could work out. My intuition is not to play e4. But let's look. H4 is a very, move you'd want to, if you do it, you have to really calculate it out. Whereas F5 is a move feels more intuitive. Oh yeah, there's just dreams. There's big dreams of mating black. Like if you get Alekine's gun or something involved and then bust with F4, you're mating on G8. This queen is so bad on the defense. It's got nothing. It's got nothing on the defense. Oh, buddy. Yeah. Do we see another move for black here besides rook h7? I'm just thinking about it. My assumption, right, is like if we win this pawn, we're not winning because we won the pawn, but we then have gained full access with the bishop if we win the pawn, right? That's the problem. And that is something that black, I don't think, can allow himself. Which is why, yeah, something like h4 comes up as a thought, because it would, hopefully, the idea would be to guarantee that opening. This looks pretty vicious. And bishop h4 is never a great thing. H4 is easier to move to play as a commentator than someone over the board, especially because all these other positions also look winning. There's no flamingo merch. Yeah, we need some flamingo merch, man, for sure. For sure. Great. We need to work on our merch. Yeah. Do you guys see my our cup here? You guys can actually anybody can get some merch here. Watch, I'll show you this here. I think if I do this magical Twitch thing, I go merch. Bam. Oh, it didn't work. Or maybe it's still gonna work. It's not showing up. Do I have to do? Oh, I have to go. There we go. There's our merch. I got the exclam wrong. Yeah. So no, black still hasn't played Rook H7. And our good Vishnu, I think he's just winning this game here. Now, did he have something better than knight d6? Maybe. Mm, this might have been a little bit inaccurate because now black can like. I mean, he's totally winning. I don't want to sound ridiculous, but I mean, it's winning either way. It's winning either way. The only, reason to say maybe not is like this bishop. When you play knight d6, you allow black to get rid of his bishop, which is being persecuted by the knight on f5. But otherwise, yeah, looks. I mean, it's going to be winning no matter what. But this is the whole thing with these. Both at this level, any level, you need to knock. You need to knock somebody out. Yeah. Yeah, we just need the merch. Oh man. This would be, I want to say, as a chess fan, this would be great if Joel won this game. Because Mitch is, like, I think, legitimately over 2,200. And Joel has been working for a long time to try to break 2,000. And to do that, you need to at least be competitive with the 2,200 people. And it's not easy, and it hasn't been easy. And it's very hard for anyone to improve when they're older, myself very much included in that statement. So yeah, so this would be cool, and I think it's just his last couple moves were great. They were intuitive too, natural. The next move, though, I think after Rook H7 is going to be the one where he is going to need to do some, let's call it deep calculation, evaluation too. For example, if you do it this way, you could tell yourself you're just winning. You could tell yourself that, but it might not be so simple. And even here, Bubba's move F6 could come into play here as well, just with the idea that black isn't going to lose if we manage to stuff this bishop from ever doing anything. So that's certainly a thought as well. Yeah. Um, One thought that I kind of doubt, but we could think about is h4, bishop h4, f5, g5. Let's just try f6. And now black could dream about either g4 or rook h6. Why don't we just dream about rook h6? And maybe it isn't so simple. Maybe it's not so simple, Mr. Pimple. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Mitch tanking here. So yeah, this rook h7 is the big one. I feel pretty certain this would be like the critical moment where Joel would have to tank. Rook h7 was played just now after 8 minutes thinking. And I'm hoping Joel spends some time here. Like, even if he spent 10 minutes, I'd be fine with it as long as he came up with like a concrete plan. So we've got f5, h4, queen f3. There might be queen e2 with this kind of stuff. Oh man. And let's just say he could. Part of the black's bummer is even if white plays weenie moves, like say the weenie b3 move, uh, black is still suffering. There's no like, there's no out. You know. Certainly he can improve the position though, and we can say that maybe rook g8 is a huge improvement because it makes meeting the f5s of the world so much easier, right? Hmm. Like, for example, let's say we do this position, and I play queen f3, and I could just be aiming for very simplistic things, like first of all telling you you can't do that much, and yeah, there's all kinds of ideas here for white. You just be hanging over black's head. h4, queen e4 at some point. It's very hard to move the rook on h7. This would be like the mellow way of going about the position. This is where chess truly gets hard, and let's say Joel, as well as every other 1800 player, as well as GMs too, like this is where it gets tough, is finishing a guy off in a position like this, because you really have to be concrete, and it's not always the simplest thing. That's right, Bubba. Yeah, he's had a number of good positions in the tournament and hasn't been able to finish it off. It's funny, I was telling him to think for 10 minutes, but now I'm like, maybe you should just play b3 and queen f3 right away. Save your time for later. um, okay, let's look at one more idea. What about, well, like this following idea I'm not thrilled about. I was going to say here, 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 but let's say you just do this. Do I, even if I could play f3 and takes, even if I could, which there's all kinds of bishop e5 problems, I don't really want to open up this business here. So that's not the happiest thing. I need to open it up. Okay, he moved. He did move. And what did he do? He played queen e2. So, I guess he's dreaming of that big e4, e5 in the sky. And I wasn't certain about it at all. So, for example, let's say rook g8, e4, e5. Let's assume takes. Queen takes. Now the good news is that we really are holding everything still over black's head. I think, kind of, sort of, but like that bishop, it might just land there, and it's going to be really hard to make f5 work. Because in those positions, even if I gambit, even if I win the pawn on g6, my bishop is not free. Oh man, queen e2. Oh, buddy. Oh, it's going to get hot. Okay, and Fabian move, rook g8. Good. So very simple move. And now I think e4 it looks like in any case that's his intention. Let's look at it again. E4, E5. Would I still be better if I played F5? I would, but I didn't. I've really done myself a disservice. And unfortunately, well, my bishop is just now dead on a variety of levels. Like, even if you didn't have to take this way, right? Or rather, for whatever reason you couldn't, you could just take back this way, and like my bishop is toast. Yeah, this could end up going back the other way against us. Oh man. Now the good news for Joel is he can just kick it if he wants and play a move like b3. In that case, like black, I don't think is doing anything. Oh man. Come on, Joel, you can do it, buddy. If you need to, just play b3. It's okay. Oh, very tricky business. I don't like e4. Interesting. Yeah, rook a1. It was at least an idea, but yeah. And you can just white can always go back to the queen f3 plan, like GT is saying. Just play b3. And honestly, I don't. One of the great things for white here is after a move like b3, black. I don't see black having any great moves here. Now maybe I'm missing something, but it would be very difficult for black to even just find a good move. I don't think e6 is something you want to do here. You could think about rook h6, though I'm not sure exactly what it does. Uh, yeah. Oh man. Okay, Joel did move. Let's see what he did. Oh, he played e4. Oh man. Oh man. I don't like it. I really don't like it. So, yeah, I really don't like it. Really, really don't like it. Simply because we are blocking our own bishop in. And e5 just makes a lot of sense for black. Oh no. And certainly black can think about it in this position, and he could also he might well be able to get away with other things as well, like maybe just queen c7, for example. But all right, before I get too down on this, I do want to say that white's position after, say, e5, de, queen e6 should still be better, but it's not what it used to be. Simply because now whenever you play f5, I just ignore it and I don't let you do any fancy stuff. But you're still better, and like I can play queen d2 and other things to, mess around with the position. All right, so we're about to find out. Mitch is thinking, as he should, after this e4 move, very committal. And I think in the back of his mind, Joel knows I'm going to yell at him for putting the pawn the same color as the bishop. Right, that's where it's controversial. Oh man. So far, both sides have played pretty well. Let's just say this one's nearly toast. GT, I'm not quite sure what you mean. So, e5 and f5. Yeah, we can check. So e5, f5. I think I see two problems. One is, what are we going to do after g5? And then I think, well, that's just my first question. Like, what are we going to do after that? My bishop on d3 has gotten much worse, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, good. So e5 takes queen e6, f5. All right. Um, Couple options for black. You could play bishop e5 check and then move the queen to like queen f6, or you could just play queen e5 check now. Let's make life simple and just do queen e5, something like king h1, right? And honestly, even if it's white's move, I don't think taking on g6 is the end, but let's just play g5. Black might be better soon, right? First e5, then f5. All right, let's look. Totally. e5, okay. Good. Very standard idea, let's say. So snip f5, and I definitely at least want to consider queen d6 with the e4 nastiness trick. Looks unpleasant. Now maybe there's some way to be tricky about it, but I don't. This is not what I wanted for breakfast. This is not the one I wanted for breakfast. Yeah. I'm sure that's what Joel is considering there. The practical good thing about e4 is black doesn't have to play e5. He could go passive with a move like queen c7, in which case white would again have the, like, all the play in the world. And so it is true that when he starts analyzing this position, he's going to be worried about things like f5 and e5, and maybe there is some way to make this work. I just haven't seen it yet. I was thinking maybe queen. I don't really want to do it, but I was thinking queen d2 just so that when I play f5 and he checks me or something, I can play f4. But it's very unconvincing. In particular, just because like I really need to move this pawn. I need to move him. And bishop d4 is about to happen. So if I don't do it soon, like, yeah, bishop d4 is really going to be just annoying. Oh, buddy. Counter sparks, are you toast yet? No, he's thinking. No, wait a second. I'm the one who hasn't got it right. All kinds of things have happened, my friend. Sorry about that. White's going to win some pawns. Vishnu's saying, I'll take your pawns. Oh, this is totally brutal. Oh, man. Resigns Counter Sparks. It's time to give up, buddy. Sometimes it's time to give up. All right. Here we go. Here we go. The game of the evening. This will, if Joel could win this, it would greatly improve his chess psychology. e5 is such an annoying move. You can't just leave it there, If I could take it, my life would be so much better if I could take that pawn, but I am truly going to lose if I take that pawn. Is there any way that I get away with not taking the pawn? I think I got to take it. Yeah. That's a bummer. Well, Mitch is thinking about it. E4. Here it is. Oh, man. Now, although I objected to this e4, it is true that I did not find, in this position, we did not find a knockout blow. Right? We did not find the knockout blow. And I blame at least myself a little bit here, because it feels like It feels like it should be knockout blow material here. Like, okay, how about this? Queen f3, rook g8. And I'm just going to do like b3 and say that your position is fudge. That it is fudge because I have things like queen g3, h4, and then f5 amongst others. That's at least the dream. Am I totally convinced? Not totally. Yeah, I'm not totally convinced with that either, but let's just say okay. b3, do I have a monster threat? Or maybe a better way of putting it is black maybe going to get zugzwanged? It's hard to imagine, especially because a move like rook h6, it doesn't seem like it's hurting him to play rook h6. This is okay. Now, another thing I just want to go is this all happened, right? Rook g8. Would it have been possible to f5 him earlier? It's really the bummer is that rook on d1 is on d1. If it weren't on d1, all this stuff with queen d1 would be working instantly. Man. Huh. Nah, I'm looking at some weird stuff now. There were arguments for rook g3. They're kind of weird arguments. But there were arguments for rook g3. Rook g7. Queen d1. Rook h7. I'm going over this really hardcore book by Korchnoi, and although its rook endings feels a little bit like this, where white needs to find a very concrete way to knock black out. The good news is I think Mitch is still thinking. I shouldn't say I'm not rooting against Mitch. I'm rooting for Joel. So I'm not seeing anything amazing here. Um, One thing that's kind of interesting is part of me just wants to take on g6, but then the queen gets to come in. Yeah. Okay, you know what? Let me take on g6. I know it's easier to sack other people's pieces. But the idea would be, let's say queen f5, to play queen f3, and now I want to achieve queen g2. And the claim is going to be if I get queen g2, that's at least a big deal. Of even if I got it, not totally clear that it's winning. Like rook f8, queen g2, queen c8. But of course, there's all kinds of questions besides that. One of them would be like, can he do rook g7? If he does rook g7, though, I could take once and then play rook g5. So there is that. And he only has one shot at doing this. So this is actually, let me just put this on for a second. Queen g2, queen c8. Oh, I'm not seeing it. All right, I'm going to refresh the board. Bishop d4 was played. Haha, well, I think bishop d4 is not what he was wanting. No, I think bishop d4. Okay, wait. He does have an idea. I think it's wrong, though. I think it's wrong. He wants to talk to the dark squares here. Let's just see if he can. My sense is no. That this is a huge deal just so that I can get this rook involved. And so, for example, snip, snip, queen c7. Let's just say for kicks, right? The first piece of good news is that I have rook e1. And if f6, I've got f4. And I think I'm winning that position. And that's just like without calculating any other fancy tricks. If he does not take on e5, then I don't know what he's doing, because e5 is a monster move. He could, and I just no, I don't think you can do chess like that because, well, a variety of reasons, right? This is not what you wanted. So, Joel, buddy, I think he thought for 12 minutes on bishop d4. Oh, now maybe I'm missing something amazing about bishop d4. Maybe I am. So after d e f5 for white. Uh, Also, let's just say that's also a problem. Yeah, also a problem. This one, maybe there's some way to wiggle and jiggle after f5. Um, you know, there might be some way to wiggle and jiggle, but this is also bad. But this one, honestly, even that, if I can do that, holy smokes, that's a big deal. I'm getting everything. Everything is being achieved here. Yeah. Um, right. Can black take on g1 with f4? Well, the thing was, with that, let's look at that for a second. Joel is thinking about it. So, snip, snip, let's say queen c7. First of all, the exchange sacrifice with f4 would be, I think, viable, but I don't have to. See, because I just play rook e1, and then I'm going to play f4 next. And yeah, you don't get to have any fun. There's no fun here. There's no fun for black. Totally lost. So, Joel, buddy, it's hard to like he thought. Sometimes you think for a long time on a move and it's a bad move. So I might be missing something with e5. But the good news for white is honestly like you could just play it and say to yourself, yeah, that's the right move. Okay, here's a thought for black. It looks weird. What about e6? That's interesting anyway. That is an interesting move. I do not believe in this move, but it's at least an interesting move. And one of the reasons it's weird is it's not. All it's doing is it's really stopping me from playing e6 myself, which is worthy, but I'm just saying I'm not sure what it's going to do next. Um, as a default, I guess I could do like take think we've got better than that. I don't really want to invite the queen into f4, but I'm just saying as a default. I'm just trying to imagine what is the idea after e5. And for Joel, I think, dude, you gotta play e5 because your bishop has to have life. It's gotta be e5. There is no other move, Joel. There's no other move. But okay, I'll take it back a little bit. You could play queen d2. And the point of this would be to say, actually, queen d2 is also very strong, right? Queen d2 is arguably also an evil move. So that it has two ideas. One, to look at these squares, g5 in particular, so there'll be no f5, g5 stuff, and to get ready for an f4 on any kind of checks. So funnily enough, I was making fun of Joel for thinking about this forever, but queen d2 is also possible. All right, let's see what he did. He played e5. Okay, and now we're into the time pressure. Now we're into the time pressure, my friends. Uh, e6 is so far the only plausible thing I've got. I'll check in to see if Vishnu's crushing this guy. Looks totally over. He is up. Wait a second, though. I thought he was up multiple pawns. Yeah, he had like this position. Oh, and then black just decided to give away a piece, dude. He gave away a piece. There it is. Congratulations, Vishnu. All right, buddy. Well, I'll tell you guys what. I'm going to pull up the standings for a second. We'll take a look. So, here we go. Oh, you know what? I think I have this from earlier. Uh-oh. Now I'm not doing good. No, I'm not doing good. Come on, Cry. No, you're not. You can't be doing this. All right. That's what I'll do. I'll go famous studio mode, and I'll go over here, and I'll go bam. Mm. Yeah, Bubba, I was totally right. He was totally right about how the game was going to progress. I had a totally different vision of what was going on. All right, let me get this cross table up here. So, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? So preview. Let's add a scene. There we go. Bam. And let's go bam. All right, you are looking at this the table here, and Joel needs to win this game to be -1. That would be an honorable result. If Mitch wins this game, he's still kind of sort of in the hunt for stuff. Yeah, because has he battled the famous Shock Masteo yet? Yeah, he drew the Shock Masteo. And Bubba's actually in striking distance too. This is everything still happening. And Counter Sparks lost to Vishnu. Vishnu actually, oh, he's had a tough tournament, man. He hasn't played that many games, but so Vishnu's back to even. And everyone's going to finish this tournament way before Vishnu and Pirate King, which is cool. Vish, congratulations on the game, buddy. Really well done. Well, we thought that Joel was winning, and now we're not sure. We still like it a lot, but by the way, Vishnu, it was a very peculiar thing where Joel did not come out of the opening good. And it was a London, my friend. It was, you will enjoy that fact. It was a London. Joel did not come out of it looking good. He's probably still winning this thing. So e6 is the only move I can imagine black surviving with. And one cool thing that we could do, I think, is just go like queen e4. And yeah, we're just saying I'm going to rip it all open. There's other moves too. But e6 is the only move that I can imagine black surviving with here. Just to recap for Vishnu here, in this position, I felt that black had holding chances with e5. We did not like e4, or I will say I did not like e4 from white earlier, so in this position. But anyways, very tight. e5 came, excuse me, e5 did not come, and instead bishop d4, e5, and I think someone just played a move. Bishop d4, e5, e6 was played. Holy smokes. And Mitch getting low on the time, and e6, and I'm not sure he planned it in advance, but it is in fact the only move that has chances of survival. So the default for Ryoba would be to play ed and then follow that by de, but I want more than that. I want more. Um, there's a lot of different things going on here. Another intuitive way to play this would be snip, snip, and now the very simple, oh, this is strong, bishop e4. Queen e4 was also a move. And the idea is very simple. If you take, I'm going to play f5. And I think we can rightly say that that is a complete disaster for black. Now, one of the problems for white here is he's just got so many different moves. What line did he play? Bishop d3 or something more combative? Well, he played a line that we had kind of sort of talked about, and it turns out like Mitch is very booked up with all kinds of stuff. I'll show you this. And I had looked with Joel at this kind of stuff before, and rook a7 was actually a move that Kostya had played and did a video about ages ago, and we're guessing that Mitch kind of pulled that out of his memory. Maybe not. Anyways, so I thought b4 was better here. Rook e1 was weird, and then black was better after knight e4 because the knight's poor on f3. Rook d1, and then Joel becomes obsessed with pushing d5, and for this obsession he is willing to give up his beautiful bishop. And in this position, me and Kostya felt that it was either clearly better for black or just strategically winning. Bishop f3 was also a good move here. Rook b8, bishop f3, queen d7, and it went south here with black playing h5 because all of a sudden Joel's going to get some targets on the g6 pawn. So the bishop, the light square bishop, will suddenly become a thing. And the initiative shifted violently from being completely terrible for white to being now a vicious situation. And Joel is tanking, I think, on this e5 on e6 move. Yeah. So I'm going to say the easy way, if I'm allowed to say easy, would be de followed by bishop e4. Right, it was trapping the queen, but he could have played like bishop g7 and queen f6. He didn't need to go loco with the h5 move. All right. Oh man, well, we're gonna get a finish soon. We're gonna get a finish soon. All right, Vish, hang out. Great game today, buddy. That was a good game. You can watch the replay. We had some thoughts for you, but that was a good game. It's our final game. Oh, Joel's got minutes left, dude. It is pretty rough here. He needs a move, buddy. Oh shit. It, I think he should play DE, man. Play DE, buddy. It's the simpler way. It's the simpler way. Another move, for example, after this would be maybe you just play like Queen F3, for example. And so you've got all those juicy light squares, and if DE, you just play F5. I like the other one better, but this would be another way to do it. Oh, Joel, buddy, you need to move. You need to move, buddy. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah, it's pretty hard to find the way, man. Counter sparks. Oh, man. Well, check out our replay. We had some interesting thoughts for you. We liked your position out of the opening. We thought you were doing fine. Okay, let me refresh this. Sometimes I need to refresh. No, it's coming down. 1 minute, 45 seconds. It's for real. The tension is real. And this is why we do Sunday night at the fights. Because we're going to get something interesting like this going on. Yeah, here we go. Here we go, Joel. You got to move, buddy. He played that move, and I have some problems with that move. I think I have problems with that move. Okay, I did consider this, and maybe his intention is to now play DE. No, he plays Queen E4. And the drama about this is we are no longer threatening F5. And black, oh shoot. Oh, this game could slip into madness very quickly here. Because white is not really threatening anything. And at least he's getting some time back on the clock. Now I think the evaluation has gone from clearly better for white to just fully unclear, I think. Fully unclear. F5 would be, I think, a totally reasonable move for black to make. No, I take it back. F5 would be, actually, even F5 is playable. It looks like a blunder at first, but even here, no, this is a blunder. F5, F5 is a blunder. Let's say that clearly. F5 was a blunder. Okay, so what should the dude do? I believe in black's position now just because white's king is now funny, but he does need to find a reasonable move here. Rook h6 is weird but playable. And he definitely, you could tell Mitch wants to hurt him right now. This is his chance to hurt him. Rook d8, of course, also totally a thing he could do. Let's say something obvious. Both sets of rooks are going to have some grief in coming back to the game. At this point, we might want to say, though, that black's king is, at least on principle, stronger because we have to babysit this pawn on f4. Yeah, so if he can organize f5, for example, actually, maybe, I don't know. There should be some way for black to organize something. All right, a move was played. What did he do? Dude played rook hg7. King H1. Okay, what's cool about King H1 is that we are not instantly like grabbing on A6 or anything. And we're just getting out of the way. Black could totally play F5 here. And we've got basically nothing. But, F5 in a lot of ways isn't necessary anymore because even now, us playing F5, we're not really threatening anything too much. Oh, this was a tough one. Vish Chess is talking about Rook G5, E5. Vish, I knew that you couldn't leave. I knew you couldn't leave, buddy. King H1. All right, so does Joel go for it with something here, or does he just snip on A6? Holy smokes, check that out, Vish. He's doing your move, buddy. Very bold. Do I believe in this? No, I don't believe in this at all. My kid decided to watch the show. Good. Your kid should be in bed, buddy. Your kid should be in bed. Bishop F6, very simple move. I have a really bad feeling that it's descending here for Joel. One simple point is on Rook E5, if Black doesn't want to, he doesn't have to take the frickin' Rook. What? Isn't that just losing everything? Rook takes H5? Oh, man. That's just losing everything, right? Oh, guys, that was really depressing. Oh, man. Oh, man, I'm going to do my unhappy face. That's my unhappy face right there. Yeah. Well, guys. Oh, man. Really a bummer. He totally had a shot in this game. I don't see anything after GH. And the horrible thing about this is even if Black played Rook H7, he would still, I think, be, I guess, better. This because structurally he's better. Oh. All right, guys. It's been a great show. I enjoyed it. I'm going to peace out. I'm just going to assume Mitch is going to find this one. I'm going to say Mitch is going to find this one. Great game for Vishnu, Connor Raider. Some good games today. We'll be back next Sunday. I'm going to be a little bit more free in the next couple days because in contrast to Vishnu, my wife and kids got out of the house. So I got a little bit of time. Thinking about Title Tuesday on Tuesday. I guess that's when Title Tuesday is, and I'm trying to get me. I want to do a video or two. I don't even know what. I'm really trying to get up early and study some rook end games. All right, thank you, GT. I'll talk to you guys soon.